I didn't really care for the first one, personally.
I just liked it because it was. Superman and not Bruce Superman. I want go back towards Christopher Reeve style where it's like he's something to aspire to.
Well, that's
Like
what.
the tone of all the stuff that they've done is just like we must be dark because we have to be different from Marvel's like you don't have to be completely.
Well, they were
different
actually
just
building
because
that
we're
arc
different, right? Like,
for.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Dennis, Nathaniel, and Robert. I got thrown a curveball because Robert was here today, so I get out of
I love that you say always, and then I pop in like once every 6 months.
Well,
But I think this is my second
does
showing in
always
like
every
4 months, which is a new record over the last couple of years.
yeah, it is. I mean, that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. And of course, anybody that was listening to the holy crap, I don't know. Something is total. All my audio stuff was screwed up. Mic, this camera, and then you have everything perfect for years, and then all of a sudden one day you come in and it's all just jumbled up. So I don't know. I don't understand.
Lies. It's never been perfect. There's always a weird thing with it, John.
It's usually just my headset, or it's usually just my camera. I mean, once I got the whole thing figured out with Pretzel, so I could play the music and not hear us talk and have it all back in here, everything is perfect. Now it's all screwed up, so I'm gonna have to try to figure that out again. I don't know.
I mean, if there isn't something technically that goes wrong, are you even streaming live on Twitch?
I don't know. I mean, I'll say 7 times out of 10, I usually don't have to do anything. Usually it's just open it up, update everything, and go. But for some reason tonight, everything just audio. That was it, just audio. Everything else is fine. So the most important thing of a podcast, the audio. So.
It's just true. It's true. I'm not used to streaming live this early in the day, so My problem was it's lighter than normal, so none
Well,
of my
yeah.
lights are showing up as I like them. But it's fine; they're there.
Yeah,
It's all good.
because
You can
we-
see my face. I guess that's what's important.
We all don't live in Hawaii where it's 3:00 in the afternoon. We all live on in the United States where it's
Palm trees swinging.
it's dark here. So
Listen, I
been
can't
dark
see
for
a
while.
palm tree from where I am right now. Okay.
Well, then you're not living the right Hawaiian life.
I have an avocado tree growing on my
Okay.
balcony. Does that count?
That'll work. That counts. I mean, it's
a dragon fruit,
it's-
tree or plant vining next to it.
It's something that won't grow in West Virginia, so yeah, I mean that's
right.
fine. Because the dirt's too rocky, and as the song goes. But anyway, for anybody that knows bluegrass, that's how the song goes. All right. Well, we're not here to talk about growing avocados and stuff. That's a different podcast altogether. So
This is the
That
agricultural
one's on
lounge. What are you talking
Sundays.
about?
Yeah.
yeah, that's our agricultural podcast that's on Sundays. So.
I was like, if we made a podcast for every tangent we've ever gone onto
Oh
on the
my
show, we
God.
would have way too many podcasts.
And I would never have any other time than to do podcasts. That's all. I'd have to
Yeah.
quit my job, and I'd have to do.
So this
it
is
full-time.
Honestly, though,
episode-
that'd be the dream.
Yeah.
Honestly,
This
'cause
is
I
episode
always envy-
235, right? So that we would have 235 single show
Yeah,
podcasts.
mhm, yeah,
That's how it would
exactly.
go.
That's right.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Dennis? That was the.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, like, I envy people who can make a career out of podcasting.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Like, because I would love to do that 24/7, but that's not. But that the success rate of that is very, very low. Like,
Yeah.
there's only a handful of people that really, a lot of them need to use some sort of Patreon or something like that. They don't have sponsors. Like
Right.
no, how many Joe Rogans are there in the world? You know what I mean? There's very, very few. So
Well,
like,
and that's just it. It's mostly the ones that's successful are the ones like Joe Rogan, and what was it? I started listening to unless you started very, very early, and when I say very early, like when podcasts first became a thing on Apple, you would have. But Dana Carvey and
Okay.
what's his name? That
Yeah.
was the other guy that was in Tommy Boy, the skinny guy. Why can't I remember his name? He was with Tommy
Wrong
Boy all
reference
the
for
time.
me.
Yeah,
He was Joe Dirt.
I'm not that old.
Joe Dirt.
oh, David Spade.
David
Oh, there
Spade.
we go.
Thank you. Yeah,
David
Joe
Spade.
Dirt,
Yeah. I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, they started a podcast. It's like, we're 10 episodes in, and we've already got like 17 sponsors. They take 27 breaks in
Gee,
an hour.
I wonder why.
Yeah. It's like
Maybe because you had a big name before you started your podcast.
Yeah,
Whoa,
it's like
weird.
Weird. It's weird how. I don't do much acting. I still do my stand-up. Let me do a podcast, and everybody will just flock to it. And of course, I listen to it. So
It's weird. All of the fans that I've gained from acting haven't followed over to our podcast. you
yeah,
know?
I know. It's so weird. What's up with that? That's the whole reason why we brought you.
I don't know. I forgot to send out the tweet. I'm sorry, guys.
Gosh, you know what? Fire that man. No. It's like-
Wait, was I getting paid?
Yeah, no. You didn't tell him? Oh, Dennis, you didn't tell him?
What? Oh, that's.
I'm gonna need my back paycheck.
But anyway, let's talk about video games for a little while. I haven't had much time to play anything. I'll be honest with you. I've only played one game, and I literally just started it the day before yesterday. And that was Bear and Breakfast. I don't know if anybody has any of you guys have heard of this game, but it's
I have heard of it, yes.
I had heard of it. I was interested in it, and I thought, I'm going to buy that sometime. And then I talked to my niece the other day, and she said her boy, my great nephew, was going to camp this week, and he was going to learn to play Pokemon trading cards. I was like, "Oh, what? It's some kind of video game centric camp that he's going to." And I'm like, "He doesn't play video games." Well, they got him a Steam account, and they bought Bear and Breakfast. And I was like, "Well, then I've got to buy Bear and Breakfast. If a 7-year-old who doesn't play video games has it before I do, there's a problem." So it's like, so I picked it up. It is really, really good. It's kind of a cross between like a Stardew Valley and a Animal Crossing, I would say. You're a bear who lives in this woods with abandoned buildings around, and you decide that you want to build the buildings up so humans will come back, so you're running a bed and breakfast as a bear. But the people who stay there don't know that the bear is running the bear and breakfast, or the bed and breakfast. So, you know, you build.
I'm getting mobile game vibes from this.
It's kind of. I could see it on mobile, but it's a little more. It's almost a little more technical than what you could probably do on mobile. I mean, I guess you could probably, you know, any more mobile games, I say, yeah, be more technical, but really, you know, any game could be mobile anymore, especially with a controller and Bluetooth. But, yeah, so all I've done is I've made the camp. There's a guy who runs the bus terminal there in the woods that has all these broke down buses. I built some bus stops, had my first people come, and every time nobody says anything, they just have little bubbles over their head. So if they're tired, they have little sleepy things. If they're hungry, they have little hungry things over their head. And every time they see me walking around doing things, it's a scared surprise because I'm a bear working on the house, you know, building stuff, putting furniture in the house. And, you know, and you got to keep your people happy. So, you know, you got to build a kitchen. You got to have a garden for food. You got to have a bathroom, a bed, you know, decorations to make it look nicer and to get your reputation up and stuff like that. And literally, you're going through the garbage every night and taking out stuff to build new things. I mean, there's crafting. You learn recipes. There's gardening. There's all kinds of stuff. I've only played it for like maybe 2.5 hours, but it's really cool and it's very cutesy. But I could see where a lot of people who liked Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley and stuff would really like this, because there's this, you know, there's the building aspect, and you get visitors like you do in Animal Crossing stuff. It's not out on Switch yet because they're still apparently they've submitted it to Nintendo, so they're just waiting for the approval. They had to do controller support. Which the PC version doesn't have, but it still works perfectly on Steam Deck. Even with unofficial controller support, it still picks up the sticks, it picks up the buttons, picks up the triggers, and just to move things around, like when you're building a house or something, you have to use the little pad on the right side to point, and it's real simple and easy to use. In fact, when they do probably put controller support on it, I probably won't use it because I've gotten used to these controls. So, but
I'm looking at this picture here. What's the story with this unamused bird?
He's your buddy.
So I can't play as him.
No, you only play as the bear, and you've got a fox or a wolf who's a female that's your friend, and a little bird who wears a hat, and they're just kind of there helping you out with things. Oh, you could go do this, giving you ideas, and you know, oh, well, if you need to find something, if you go over here, so-and-so has it, or you go over there and so-and-so has it. It's really, so far, it's really cool. I mean, it's just a chill game. I think I played, like I said, it like an hour and a half last night, just sitting there playing it. It's very, if any of those games like that if you like, you know, Animal Crossing and stuff, and you get lost in it, you'll get lost in this, because you just want to build one more thing and upgrade this so you get a little better rating and unlock that and get more visitors.
Yeah, this is the game that I said I got confused with Bear's Restaurant, because Bear's Restaurant, which is a completely different game,
and I never heard of it.
And it came out last year too, apparently. But like I had that like sitting on my wish list on both Steam and on Switch for quite some time. So when you mentioned that, I was just like, oh, cool. I've had that on my wish list for a while. But then when I looked it up, I was like, oh wait, no, because at the time when you mentioned it, I can't remember if it was out yet or not, or maybe it's out on Steam, but it's not out on Switch.
Yeah,
yet.
it's not out on Switch. It just came out on Steam the 28th, and they've sent it in for approval on Switch, which that's just what they're waiting for. So it's probably going to be another couple of weeks.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I got confused with that. I'm like, what is it with all these, the Stardew Valley type games lately, but with animals? Animals are the protagonist rather than, like a farmer.
Yeah, and it's hilarious because you're like a bear who has no idea about anything. Your mom lives in the forest right over, and that's where you're living. She was all mad because I didn't come home for like days because I was over there building up the the shack for the for the humans, and it's a hilarious little game. So
It reminds me of there were like smaller 3DS games that were around $5 to $10, and there's one that I loved called well, two of them. One was Adventure Bar Story, and then the other one was like Adventure like Dungeon Story. And one of them, as you can imagine, you like built a bar, but then the other one, I think you just like built like some sort of you built something that also had to do with like being a restaurateur basically. And but those games were really cool, and I like seeing something like this, and I'm glad you mentioned it because it definitely seems up my alley. Something that's more robust, and I love that,
Mm-hmm.
we've been taking that sort of concept and just evolving it into being a more, rich and, deep experience. So,
Yeah,
because I enjoyed those games, even though they were only $5, I had the time of my life with those games,
yeah,
So, well, I always say, and I don't know if it's in the news, I have to double check, but like, I always say like, don't let the price of a game sort of deter you
yeah,
from its worth, because you see people be like, oh, this game was only 5 hours, but it was $30. It's like, so like, what if that was the best 5 hours of your life? That the price is irrelevant at that point, because I see people saying that about Stray,
right,
where like the people who've been playing Stray, they've been enjoying it, but then they're like, nah, no, man, 5 hours, $30, and I'm just like, well, it's an incredible 5 hours. What are you
yeah,
talking about? Like,
yeah. I don't know. That's just an
so
argument I've never, And like this game, I could see, it's $20. Can you probably beat it in a short amount of time? Probably, but there's so much you could do. You just keep
yeah,
playing and playing and playing and playing, and it
right.
just end up like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, where you just put 100 hours in it and
Well,
still just
that's
keep playing it.
And that's what I mean, right? So long as you have like a core gameplay loop that works really well, who cares if you beat the story in just a few hours? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Because the replay value is so high
right.
that
I mean, the
you can just
story is
keep
only
going back.
one aspect of it, right? I
Right.
mean, that's
Exactly.
it's an experience. It's not just,
Yeah.
oh, I want to see the narrative and throw this game out.
Right.
Yeah, like that if you want something like that, which is fine because I love that stuff, but but that is where you go for, visual novels or walking simulators. That's where you're going to get your core story experience, and then
Right.
that's a one and done usually. There's typically no replay value in there, unless you want to experience it again like you would like a movie, like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to watch this movie again. But you already know where it's happening from A, B, C all the way to Z, but yeah, absolutely. It's at the end of the day, it really is just one aspect of game design, and there's so much more that can go into certainly a game like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. If you have a Steam Deck, it's a perfect Steam Deck game, even without controller support. I mean, technically, like I said, it has controller support. It's just when it pops up and says hit the E button or E key on your keyboard, it's the B button on your controller. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
it's
not
weird
hard.
that they would say something like that when it's clearly coming to Switch, and it's just like, so clearly there's controller support. So why would you label it as
Yeah. Well,
having no controller
the
support?
reason is because they were still working on controller support when they released the game. That's why.
Ah,
And
fair
then
enough.
they'll update it. That's why the Switch version's been delayed. They was just taking time to convert things over to controller.
Okay.
So, but and then when they said when it releases on Switch, they'll release an update with controller support. But it really doesn't need it. I mean, that little pad button on the Steam Deck is great because it's got that tactical haptic feedback. You can tell where you need to move things. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's not like it was on that Steam controller. That was insane. But
Not a fan of that controller. Not at all.
I'm not either. But you know what? I'm a fan of the person that paid $60 for it when I sold it in the streaming box. I mean, I sold that. I did the, what was it called, the Steam box or whatever it was.
Was it the
Steam Link,
Ouya?
I think.
No, the
Wasn't it?
Steam streaming box.
Oh,
I forget what it was called.
Was it not the Steam Link? Was it
Steam
not
Link.
the Steam
That's
Link,
it.
or-
Yeah, Steam
Steam
Link.
Link?
That's
Okay.
it. I literally sold the Steam Link and that stinking controller for $200. It's like
Oh wow.
I paid $5 for both of them at GameStop when they went on.
Yeah, I paid $5 also. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
and then
You
when
can
they
get those
traded
for
them in, we
$5
gave
from
them like
Steam,
$3.
too.
yeah. What's that?
They were trying to give those away on Steam for
Yeah.
like $5 before
they
too.
just had
Like there's
inventory
lots of
somewhere.
places you could have got them cheap until they stopped selling them, and then you got to pay $200 apparently.
Yeah, it was just weird because I decided I was going to sell it because I really never used it. And I just had them in the box. I'm like, well, let me go online and see what the average price is. Average price is $250. Well, I'll sell mine for $200 and it'll go like that. And it did. I mean, it was like on there for 10 minutes and somebody bought it for $200. I'm like,
Crazy.
what are you, got money to throw around? Literally 6 months ago, these were $5 a piece. It's like,
Yeah,
That's wild.
I think it's one of them things where, oh, I can't get it anymore. I have to have it. I have to have it in my collection. It just doesn't exist anymore.
couldn't pay
Well, that
people
kinda
to buy a pre-owned Steam controller for $5.
Right. But they'll pay $200 for a set. It's like, what the crap?
Well, that kind of happened with like Vita TVs for a little bit too.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
still
and
they're
they've
still
kind of
expensive. They're still over
no, they're still
$100.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've still
yeah,
got
when
one
they've-
new in the box, and I consider selling it every day that I never use. I'm like,
Yeah.
I really could sell that for $200.
Yeah.
But I don't. I don't know why. Walk by myself and go, yep, I got that.
Oh, one day.
It's like I do with everything else. It's like I've always said. I got a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga back in the day for $50, and now that thing's worth over $1,000, and it's worth so much that I'm afraid to take it off the shelf and play it because I'm afraid if it drops or falls or busts on the floor, it's like now it's worth so much money. I don't want to play it. It's like that doesn't.
Yeah. Well,
what?
It's not worth playing anyway.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I think-
Panzer Dragoon Saga is awesome.
It,
I
it
think
was
one of the-
was cool back then.
Oh, it's still cool now. I love it. I love, and but it's not. Did you ever play it? The Saga, the role playing game.
I had it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love the role playing game. Now the old Panzer Dragoon, the 1 and 2, it's fine. it's just a rail shooter.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather play Harrier.
yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same thing. But man, I love Saga. I ended up burning copies of it so I could play it. I play it every few years, so I really enjoy that game. I wish somebody could. Yeah, I won't even play my original copies. I burn copies of it, so it's because I didn't want to play my original discs and threat getting scratches because they're worth so much money. When the kids come over, it's just like, God, guys, don't touch that shelf. Don't touch it. There's too much stuff on it.
I think probably one of the more complete things I own is one of the Pokemon Stadium games on Nintendo 64. I still have the box for and everything that came with it, so I'm sure that's still worth. Even though it's open, I'm sure that's still worth something.
Oh yeah, the one that I had was the one you got from Blockbuster that had the extra stuff in it.
Okay.
That one was
Yeah.
worth a ton, and I traded it years ago. Didn't even know it was worth any money at the time. So, people just.
I think what I got.
Stupid.
I'm trying to remember what I got from Blockbuster. I think I got Hey You Pikachu from Blockbuster. What a mess that game was.
Yeah. Well,
That microphone didn't work. He didn't understand me at the time. I always asked him, like, "Do you want to go to Taco Bell? Do you want to go to Taco Bell?" And he just looked at me like, "Huh?"
well,
I
let's
don't
talk about. I
I
don't
don't know.
understand.
Yeah.
That was
I
the
don't know, like-
ugliest system ever. The Hey You Pikachu system. Oh my
Oh,
god.
that was no. Yeah, I'm not even
It's
talking about that.
hideous.
I'm just talking about the game. But yeah, that system was. Yeah, that was not
You got
one of Nintendo's finer moments.
you talk about something worth some money though. Those Pikachu systems sell for a lot
That is true.
of money. People
For
want
some
the
reason,
Pikachu systems. And the VCRs.
just like-
You remember the Pikachu VCRs they used to have? Did you ever see one of those?
No.
I remember the
Look it up.
VCRs, no.
They have Pikachu VCRs. Those things will sell for over $100 too. An old standard. It's not even like a hi-fi VHS player. It's just a regular
Would you look at that?
standard Pikachu. And if you have the remote, it's worth that came with it. It's worth even more. Oh yeah, I mean it's.
Is that a plushy Pikachu
Yeah.
on top of it?
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
what it came with?
Yeah.
Alright.
That makes it a Pikachu, a Pikachu VCR. I mean,
Jesus, but why though? Like, what
I
is the
don't
purpose?
know. I don't
Like,
know because they stuck Pikachu on it.
I think that's the thing when it comes to merchandising, where it's just like it just seems. I mean, you can literally turn anything, and so long you can get anything, as so long as the color palette's the same,
Yep.
you can market it as being part of that property, and then you're good to go.
To
You know, and
capitalism.
Yeah. And for some reason, it'll sell.
Yep.
It'll sell because of capitalism.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Because of capitalism. It's like they said in Spaceballs. We got Spaceballs everything. We got Spaceballs the flamethrower.
I would buy that.
Yeah.
Baseballs,
love
the
it.
DVD menu.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's everywhere. So,
one of the greatest comedy films ever made.
oh yeah. Nathaniel, tell me about. Do you want to tell me about Cult of Lamb, or do you want to talk about something else first? Because I really want to know about Cult of Lamb.
We can start there, sure.
Okay. I didn't know if you had a
came out-
particular order that you wanted to hit those in or not. So,
Not really. One of them I was pretty much like, I finished Elix. Don't really have much more to say on it. It was good. So, talked about it the last 2 shows. There's not really much more to add for that one.
yeah.
Cult of the Lamb is really, really great. It's kind of like, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like taking a roguelite and then mushing it up with Animal Crossing.
Okay.
It's almost like
Sounds crazy.
two games in one, and so you're spending like a bunch of time with the management side of managing the little like cult thing. So like you start the game, you're a lamb and you're being sacrificed and you get killed, and then this imprisoned god thing called He Who Waits, I think, something like that, is all like, haha, you will be my agent. Will you start a cult for me? And the choices are yes or absolutely.
So they don't.
And so you get like resurrected and you go through like a little bit of a level, and then you have to like get followers that you then indoctrinate into your cult. And then as you play, you unlock more and more systems. So you get different things for them to do. You have like, you can do farms, you can have them harvest like wood and stone and other resources. They also like do some worshipping at a totem thing that also gives you points to upgrade this upgrade tree, and then this other thing over here has a different upgrade tree. Some of it will affect what you're doing with combat, some of it will affect, different things you can do with rituals and stuff, like say, hey, you want to sacrifice somebody to get some extra points for your tech tree over here. You can do a ritual and you can do that type of stuff once you've unlocked it. So it's really, really fun. The art style is really, really cool looking. It's like even better than it looked like in the trailers. Just watching it, like as you play it, it's a lot sharper. It's really, really nice looking.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm running at like, I don't know, 200 something frames a second on my PC, like way higher than my monitor. I was like, wow, this game is not got a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
So you can probably run it on pretty, low end systems. I don't know what the specs are, but
so I've heard people say the combat is either kind of like Tunic or Legend of Zelda, like 16-bit Legend of Zelda. Would you say it's?
I would say it's closer to Tunic, but you don't have kind of like the stamina system that has. So you have melee weapon, and then you have a magic ability called Curses, and then you have like a dodge roll, and so it's fairly simple. You get different weapons depending on what on your run. You pick up a weapon, and once you unlock the curses at the start of your run, because you don't start out with the magic, you start with just your sword. It's kind of like the tutorial area, but you've got like, I've seen swords, daggers, big axe, something else that I'm forgetting as far as like melee stuff, and then there's a bunch of different like weird magic curses, like you're shooting fire, you're raising tentacles from the ground, you're throwing like black ichor that poisons things. You have kind of like a area of effect kind of explosion thing around you, and like as you go, some of the tech trees are unlocking more and more of these things that show up. And like any good roguelite, you don't know what you're gonna get at the start. And then there are a few rooms where you can get like upgraded or different weapons as you go, but pretty much each run is pretty short, at least for the beginning part of the game. So you're not doing too many rooms before you're kind of like back out and then back doing stuff with your cult, because there's like a day and night cycle type thing. So as time passes, even while you're out campaigning or whatever they call it in the game, I can't remember, you're doing the roguelite section, it's still passing back there. So like your cult members will get hungry, you have to go back and make food for them. Oh no, this person's a dissenter now, so they're like preaching against you back there, so you have to like throw them in jail, or they'll like convert everybody else, steal a bunch of stuff and leave. And they're making a mess because they ate too much and they're leaving poop all over the ground, all sorts of just dumb, stupid stuff. But it's one of those things that when you're like looking at it and just all of kind of what's going on, it's like this is super dark, but because they picked the super cutesy art style, it works.
Yeah.
It's like oozing charm, and it's just super smooth. All the animations are really nice. Everything like the UI and all of that is designed very well, so that you always know what's going on. It just looks slick. And then there's like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, something like that. You do unlock other screens that you can go to other than the cult ones that you're building your base. You go to another place and you're kind of like at a coastline and you can do fishing there. Then there's like a dude that you meet out in the forest and you can play a dice game with him, or you go to this other guy. He's like, "Hey man, I'm obsessed with mushrooms. Give me a bunch of mushrooms and I'll teach you this secret ritual to brainwash people. Bring me mushrooms." So the like god thingy you're serving, you're trying to free it, and there's 4 other gods in the different dungeons that once you beat them, like it destroys one of the chains. And so the point of the game is to go through all the different dungeons, get to the end, and destroy each one of them to free this thing. But it looks like, based on the UI, you'll probably have to fight it too once you freed it, because there's another icon after the other 4. So I'm going to assume that the lamb eventually becomes god of the universe or something by the end of the game. Who knows?
Yeah.
I put about 7 hours or so into it. It's one of those games that you just like, I'll do this thing, and then okay, I'm going to do this, and then do this, and then like suddenly a few hours have gone by.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, I'm really want to pick up this game. I'd forgotten that it was coming out. I remember seeing the trailer for it and was like, "Ooh, I got to remember to add that to my Steam wish list," and I never did. And then all of a sudden, I saw you playing it the other day. I was like, "Hot dang, that thing's out! I need to buy it."
Yeah, they had like a preview or something last week, and then like reviews came out a couple days before it came out this week. And so I was like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to play that." And then when all the reviews are really good, I'm like, "Okay, I will buy this right away."
Yeah.
Instead of just leaving it on a wish list for a while. I'm glad I did, because it's definitely way high on my games of the year list at this point. It's one of the best things I've played this year.
I've heard a lot of good things, so I'm definitely gonna pick it up.
Yeah, I call it like cute evil art style. That's like how I see it in my head. Because everything's like, hey, it's creepy, it's kind of dark and evil, but in a cute way.
Yeah. It could be
It has,
dark and
has
evil.
big cute eyeballs. There's a dedicated button for your sheep character to like bleat. So you can just like click in. I think it's the right stick. You click it in and just go like, bah. I don't think it even does anything unless there's some weird secret thing. It's just like, hey, you want to make noise as a sheep? Go ahead, do it.
Oh, jeez.
Just tell me there's an achievement for bleeding like 100 times or something.
Maybe I haven't looked at the achievement list.
Maybe it had. I thought maybe they screamed like the goats in Love and Thunder, or was it whatever the last Thor movie was that just came out? Love and Thunder. Yeah,
I think it's that. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Now, we went and saw it, but I always get it. I can't never remember the title of it for some reason. Love and Thunder doesn't roll off the tongue like Ragnarok. I guess I don't know. Sure.
Like maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you even measure that?
I don't know if I could say it or not, which I can't say a lot sometimes. So it's but anyway.
Yeah, the only other thing I've been playing is I started Tales of Arise, because I've got my big list of RPGs that I bought during the Steam sale. I'm going bouncing between different styles of them. So I was like, all right, I just did like a big Western RPG type thing with Elix. Let's go do something completely different and do a JRPG.
Right.
And I gotta say that like Tales of Arise looks really good. I think it's Unreal Engine 4. They've got some fun atmospheric effects and things that in there, but boy, it's stupid JRPG story. It's like you play Elix and it's like, yeah, this story isn't the best. And then I play Tales of Arise. I'm like, it's not really that much better. It's got a lot better presentation because they've got a bigger budget.
Right.
But the actual story that's going on, you're like, yeah, fine.
I mean, it looks really pretty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like whenever you're like in a battle and all the like crazy stuff is going on and you're hitting special abilities and things, it's just like really fun. So you have just like it's pretty much like any of the recent Tales games as far as how it controls and stuff. So you're controlling one of the characters, and then you can do every once in a while like additional come up. You can hit a button, and then you'll do like combo attacks and other different types of things. And I'm sure there's plenty more that I haven't unlocked yet because I've only played it for about maybe 4 hours. I've kind of gotten through what I'm guessing is the early tutorial zone, the extended JRPG tutorial zone that lasts several hours because it's a JRPG.
Right.
Where you've gone through kind of like this first area, and I beat the first kind of boss of the game, and then I haven't played any really after that. So,
does it feel like it's going to be really grindy, or are you going to kind of be able to just level up as you go?
I can't tell yet. I haven't had to grind anything so far, but it's like I've pretty much done the tutorial, and
yeah,
that's about it. So it could get more grindy later. I have no idea. I just haven't put enough time into it.
I bought it when it was on sale. I bought it on Xbox. I bought the disc version. I have yet to even pop it in the system. So
I had to look it up because I forgot when it came out, and apparently it came out like last September or something. So it's about a year old now.
Yeah. I bought it last year. I don't remember. I may have bought it on Black Friday or holiday sale or something. I didn't pay a lot for it anyway. So.
I think it was like $35 or something like that. Maybe 40 in the Steam sale. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Because I bought a few things at once, so it's like I don't remember what that one was specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I may not finish it. We'll see. It's just kind of like any other JRPG. Sometimes I'll play it and then like, all right, I've had enough and then stop. Or sometimes it might just be like, okay, I'll keep playing to the end because it's just something with JRPGs specifically. Of just like it's the dumb tropes that are in all of these. It's kind of like, all right, do I care? The story's not pulling me through. So have I had enough of the gameplay yet? That's kind of where it's like when I get to that point, then I usually stop.
Yeah, I get that.
But I'll definitely be playing more of it, though. I haven't had my fill of it just yet.
Yeah. Cool.
That's me.
Robert, you want to go ahead and go since you haven't been on in a while? We'll go ahead and we'll save Dennis for last. We always save Dennis for last. He's got the longest list, but he's got a lot on there that he talked about last week. So
I mean, we could just skip Dennis, switch it up, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What's that too? I'm just here to observe.
Guys, he already came back. We can't talk about him.
He's just here to keep an eye on the chat and make sure everything's all right. That's all he's here for.
I'm just moderating. That's all. So
you're called.
If there's an argument that starts, I'll stop it.
You could be the producer. That's what.
That's right.
The on-screen producer.
Yeah,
there
the on-screen producer.
John, camera 3. Camera 3, John.
Which one?
Yeah,
is 3.
What one am I in? I'm here, right? Okay.
I'm just gonna look at the confidence monitor, guys. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, there hasn't been a lot that's come out in the last little bit that's really caught my attention. So I've found myself kind of going back through and digging through all the games that I missed or that I started and never completed. And the first one that I did was Sackboy: A Big Adventure on the PS5. PS5 launch game. I started playing through it with Michelle. As you know, it has a co-op mode to it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about these type of games, like they're pretty easy. They're a fun kind of casual playthrough for the most part. But when you're going through co-op, especially with someone who maybe isn't as well versed in platformers as you are, things get hectic really, really fast.
Yeah.
And it's really, they call it co-op mode, but the whole thing is designed at infuriating whoever's not doing as well. So you're running through. I like to go really fast through these levels. So I'm rolling everywhere. But if she comes close to me, all of a sudden it puts her on top of me as I'm rolling, and
Right.
I'm just rolling through a level with her on my back, or we're trying to jump somewhere, and if she happens to jump a little bit after me, she'll bounce off my head and fall into a pit of spikes, or anything. Maybe I'm trying to lasso something above, but for whatever reason she's too close and it lassos her. And then now I'm throwing her somewhere that I didn't intend to throw. But anyway, that aside, I really, really enjoyed this game. It's a lot of fun from beginning to end until you try to platinum the game. And they have these challenges that are in there, and I'm really glad they're in there because it is an easy game, and these definitely kick it up a notch, especially if you're trying to go for the gold in every one of them, or trying to beat all your your friends' scores on your friend list, which in this game it's implemented really, really well. And I really would love to see those features get added in other games. It definitely added a lot of incentive for me if I got to the end and yeah, sure, I got gold, but then I saw that somebody was 3 seconds faster than me. I'm like, oh, I can be 3 seconds faster. Let's go. And so then there goes another hour of me trying to beat their score until I do it. But then when you go, like, there's this one trophy in there. Once you get through all the challenges, which you don't have to get gold
Right.
in all the challenges, you don't have to. You do, however, have to get gold in the final challenge. And the final challenge is going through all 15 challenges in one run without stopping. And holy hell.
Yeah, I bet.
I wanted to break so many things because you only get one hit. You get a hit.
Right.
If you get hit again, you're dead. And you have to go through. I probably played through the first 7 challenges in this one challenge like 300 times.
Oh,
and it's just infuriating because like you get to the point to where those ones you're like, I could do this with my eyes closed. I got the timing down. I know the exact distance that I can do this roll, jump, hover thing to get across here to shave off 30 seconds here, 3 seconds there. And then you finally get to the new area and you're like, okay, you press pause and you take a breather. You're like, and then you go, but all of a sudden now your rhythm is gone and you die literally 10 seconds later and you're like, son of anyway, I did manage to do it.
See, I quit chasing achievements after Assassin's Creed 2 on the 360, and I probably told this story a dozen times, but the only thing I had left to get achievement wise was those 100 feathers in that game, and it took me 3 or 4 hours to find the last one. And after I got it, I went, yes, I got 1,000 achievement points. I'm never going to do this again.
I'm not really like huge on trophies. I will only do them for games that either I have like a storied history with, or that I'm like, I absolutely love this franchise. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm going to go for this platinum, unless it's just ridiculous. Then I'll do it for those games alone. And I've always been a big fan of the Little Big Planet games. In fact, my first platinum ever was Little Big Planet 1, which was also a really hard platinum back in the day. So I did it, and it was great, and I'm really excited to never have to play it again.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's a guy that I'm friends with on Twitter, and that he platinums almost every game he plays. He'll play through it, and then he'll go back later and platinum it. He's got like 200, 300 platinum trophies, and he gets like 60 a year or something like that. And like he's going through right now, and they're shutting down the servers for Killzone on PlayStation 4, and he's like, "Oh, I've got so many online trophies I've got to get before I can get my platinum." So he's going back and playing those before they shut the servers down with friends.
He could play it. He can play it offline still.
Yeah, no,
but to get these trophies,
right? So, but it's like, what are you? I can't do that. I mean,
no.
And me and Dennis have this thing where there's when we find little simple indie games that take like 2 hours to play. You play straight through the game. You get 1,000 achievement points. You get your platinum, whatever. Fine, I will play one of those and I'll enjoy it for 2 hours and get my 1,000, gamer score, platinum trophy, or whatever. But man, when you've got to go play it on ultra hard mode 16 times to get this last thing. No, I'm not doing that.
If there's a difficulty trophy, I don't do it. Unless it's a difficulty I can play from the very beginning.
Right.
I'm not going back just to replay it to get this trophy. I don't have the time. There's too many games. I'm sorry.
I don't like stuff like that. I'm very picky, with what I do that with. And it's funny that you mentioned platformers, because I think they're great for incentivizing the player to try again, because you were mentioning how like, oh, this person above me just did 3 seconds faster. Oh, I can beat that. And I'm always confident in myself to do it. And that's the problem that I had with Neon White, dude. I don't know where I'm sitting now, but when that game came out globally, I always made sure I was at least top 5, if not number 1. Because I would always try to find shortcuts, because that game with Neon White, you gotta beat the levels as quick as possible. You don't have to, but you do get rewarded for doing it. Now, in terms of platinums and trophies and stuff like that, the last time I really remember doing this was with Shantae Half Genie Hero. That game I got the platinum for, but I remember playing through that game normally, and it was fantastic. and but one of the last achievements that I was missing, or trophies, because I was playing on the Vita at the time, um, it was beat the game in under 2 hours, I believe. Now, my initial playthrough was like just like any standard Shantae game, which could be anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, right? And then my second time around, I was like, okay, brought it down to about 4.5. So after just reading suggestions and learning how to optimize, I brought it down to 3 hours. And dude, I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I remember I almost quit because one of the final times where I thought I had it, I'm not even joking, it was 2 hours and 10 seconds.
Oh,
Oh my God.
2 hours and 10 seconds. So I took a
No.
breather. I was like, you know what? I came back like the following day. I wanted to do it immediately afterwards, but I didn't. But I came back the following day and then I did it at 1:59, like 48. Like, so I was still just right there, but I did it. I did it,
There it
and
is.
then, and yeah, and then I got the platinum for that. But that's definitely one of the more difficult ones. That, and there was another smaller game called Xeno something. It was on the 3DS and it was also on Vita. I don't know if you guys remember this game. It was like a little pixel art game, also made by the guy who made Mutant Muds.
Yeah, I know. It was
So yeah,
Xeno. Oh gosh, what was
Xeno something.
it? Yeah,
But
now I
that
gotta
game
look
had a
it up.
similar trophy where you had to beat it in under 2 hours. And dude, I was zooming through that game because I got to the point where I replayed that game so much where I just like, I mean, I knew the map like the back of my hand, right? So I was just replaying it, replaying it, replaying it. But for the life of me, and to this day, and I still think about it from time to time, I have not been able to get it. And I tried for days, and it just wasn't. And I was like, you know what? Let me look up how people do this, and they were dashing like crazy, which is what I did. But if you hit one wall, that's it. That's time. You may as well start
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
because you need to have a pretty much a flawless run to get that time. That's the only way because every single video that I saw was basically so optimized where they didn't hit anything. It was just run, gun,
Hmm.
and dash. And I basically did that, but again, you'd be maybe an hour and a half into it. One wall, that's all it takes. One wall.
Xenodrifter.
And that'll
It's
Xenodrifter,
just
thank you.
it's infuriating.
Yeah.
For that challenge to get gold, you had to beat it in under 10 minutes. So all 15 challenges in under 10 minutes. Which is really fast, but I've done it so many times at this point that like I literally was hitting edge like the very minuscule like corners of platforms to be able to
Yeah.
to get it as the thing was moving, so I get that momentum to go faster. But when I finally did it, it wasn't even my best run, and I still beat it at about 8.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, heck yeah, there's no way I'm not number one on my friends list. I'm a minute and a half under this thing.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, there's only two of us on my friends list that have actually completed this thing, and they were ahead of me by 30 seconds. And so I went back and I saved the video of this run because I was like, I'm never doing it again. So I want to be able to watch it. And
Yeah.
and I went back through it
Relive
and
those
I
moments.
and I saw, I went back to see like where did I mess up? And like I can't, because I'd done it so many times, I'm like, I would have had I would have been able to shave 40 seconds off of this run had it been my best run, like the runs that I had done before up to that point. And I'm like, I could do it. I could go back and I could beat him. I could be number one on my friends list. But no, I'm not.
Yeah, it's the problem
Never,
when you
never
have
touching it again.
Well, I'll
when
tell you.
it's dangerous, man.
I'll tell you.
Those time challenges.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, Robert. If you ever get an Xbox, which do you have? You don't have a Series X or S, do you? Well, you
No,
could.
I'm running Game Pass on PC.
Okay. If you ever get one, you could actually go in and you could see where you rank with friends on every little bit of thing on every game. Like I could go in to Sea of Thieves and go, okay, my friends list is from here to here, and the top 10 people that have the most gold, and and you could do all kinds of stuff on every game like that and go, I could just, if I just get 3 more chests, I can be number 2 on that list.
I don't need it for every game. I don't need it.
you could really, you could really go down a rabbit hole. It's like if you're one of those super competitive, oh, my friends list, I got to be number 1.
Oh man,
oh my gosh,
it was so funny because like when I went through, like the game's been out now for almost 2 years, right? So I was like going through, I was getting all these golds. I'm beating everyone on my friends list. I'm feeling really good about it. I'm like, no one's ever going to beat my scores. Nobody's going to go back and play this game. And all of a sudden, a new friend who just got a PS5 started playing this game. And of course, I log in one day and I have like 5 notifications. It's like reclaim the top spot in Sackboy on this run. And I'm like, No. Congratulations. Congratulations, Nathan. You did it.
Yeah.
Not you, Nathan, but the other guy.
Now, see that'll have. Is that one on? Is that one on the PS Extra, PS Plus Extra? Is that game on the Extra or not? I was going to say.
No, but it needs to be.
Well, see, and that's what's going to happen when if you got friends on your friends list and they're subscribed to that, and and that game hits, it's like all of a sudden this old game will come up new again.
You know what? Maybe if enough people knock me down, I'll go back and do it. But you know what? It's fine.
Sometimes being ahead of the curve is not a good thing.
I mean,
there's so many of them. I got the gold, and I'm like, the gold is good enough for me. But then it's like, I could have done better. I just don't feel like going back and doing it.
It's that's the dangerous thing about time challenges, because I remember especially when Need for Speed the Hot Pursuit remaster had first come out on 360, I believe, and or remake rather, not the remaster but the remake, and man, I made sure I was always trying to be top of the line for every race, every challenge that was on there.
Is that one of the ones Criterion made? I can't remember.
I think
so.
I forget, because they made like two of them
at the time. Yeah,
and I was thinking that was one of them, but I can't remember
so.
for sure.
Yeah, I want to say yes.
Because I had that. Mine would be like Burnout Paradise, where they had the road rules, and you set times on all the specific roads, and if you have like your in-game times, but then they had another separate thing you could change it to the online times. And so when I was playing that game on the 360, I was like trying to stay on top.
And
you just can't. There's too many roads.
Yeah, it gets crazy. That was me also with Burnout 3, because especially with like the crash mode, where you just try to get up as many points as possible. Like, I love that mode. So like that, just seeing online times for that, it drove me crazy. Where I'm just like, no, I'm gonna beat that. I'm gonna beat that. I got you. I'm gonna beat that. But some of them are just so ridiculous. You just have to admit that some people are just gonna be better than you in certain circumstances. So
I can't be the best at all of them.
Nope.
Or if you look globally, you're like, man, I really, really pushed it, and I barely got I did it almost perfect run, and it was like, say, 5 minutes longer, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Well,
and you look at the leaderboard, and number one is like, they have to be cheating. Like 5 seconds, no, that's not possible.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Is I remember when Resident Evil 5 first came out, and I stayed up from midnight to 8 in the morning playing that game. We beat it. My friend and I, we played co-op. We beat it. And at the end, I think it was one of the first Resident Evils, if not the first Resident Evil, that actually showed like an online ranking of how fast everyone beat the campaign. And we did it in just under pretty much 8 hours, because it was from midnight to 8 a.m. But I remember just scrolling up, and we were like 1,000 out of like 1,000,000 ranks or something like that, and that to us was like number one, right? Globally, 1,000. We're 1,000,000 people playing this day one. Like, that's awesome. We were proud of that. But as we're scrolling up, we were like, hold on now, top 10 people, a time of like 30 seconds. Stop. First of all, that's not. The menu alone, the loading screen already is 30 seconds. Stop. Like, and then you have
those global rankings, man. I just can't. When you look at those things, every single time, like the first 1,000 people are all somehow glitched through or something.
Yeah, and that's exactly how they did it. Usually.
No moderation at all with those things. At least back then, there was no moderation.
And that was Crichton that did the Most Wanted.
Criterion,
or Criterion, yeah. I always say Crichton because I think of the movie. I look at it and go, oh, Crichton Films. No, wait, that's not right. That's Criterion. Sorry.
A24.
Yeah. But anyway, Robert.
Yeah. So I beat that, got the platinum, and then I started fiddling around with a couple older RPGs. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go back to play Final Fantasy X again. Maybe Final Fantasy 12, since I never beat that one. I got about 15-20 minutes into both of them. I wasn't really feeling it. But then I saw through the PS Plus Extra, they are offering Dark Cloud, the PS4 version, which is just the PS2 version with trophies, up-resed, to 1080p, I think it was. And I've been going through and playing that. And this was a game that, it came out in 2001. Mm-hmm. And I remember being so stoked, so hyped for this game. Oh, finally, Sony's going to have, a Zelda-like game. And it came out, and I thought I remembered the reviews not being that great for it, but now that I went back and I looked them up again, that was all like mid eights.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
that's
it
pretty,
wasn't.
that's really
Yeah,
pretty good.
they weren't terrible. I mean, they weren't like awful reviews.
Yeah, and I'm playing through it again, and I remember really liking it back in the day, but I really hated just you had to like micromanage everything. Oh, I get thirsty in the dungeon. I gotta drink water all the time. Oh, and my weapon is deteriorating with every swing. I gotta repair it, and I get hit. All these things, and the weapons break, and you could spend 20 hours building up a weapon, and then you forget to repair it, and it's gone forever.
Right.
And I remember so many issues with it back in the day that I never completed it. So I've been going through it and I've been replaying it. And, this game it's really like the definition of the sum is greater than the parts, right? Like the combat in this game is not great. I really wish there was some sort of like dodge button or jump back button. All you can do is strafe around a target.
Right.
The combat is really repetitive and boring. You can slash, you can kind of move slowly to the side, and there's like a charge move, and that's about it. The dungeons are procedural, so if you have to leave a dungeon and you go back in, you have to kind of re-explore the whole floor again. And so these dungeons aren't super long. You're going through them, you're collecting these orbs, and then you go and you have to like put these towns back together. And this is where it kind of gets kind of like Animal Crossing. You can put these houses anywhere you want. You get roads and trees and rivers and houses. And it was actually really, really cool. For back in the day, I think it was called like Georama or something. I think that was the system. And this is from the Level 5 folks. So the guys who did like White Knight Chronicles and Rogue Galaxy.
Rogue Galaxy. They did.
Yeah.
What was that one game, Dennis? I know you'll know it on 3DS.
Well, Level 5 is responsible for all the Layton games, and
Professor Layton.
Also, Ni no Kuni, and Yokai Watch also.
Yeah, what was there was one. It was an oddball game. It was really good. It wasn't a farm thing. What was it?
They did some of the more experimental ones on 3DS, if that's the one you're talking about, like Attack of the Tokyo Monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I actually bought 2 copies of it because Nikki liked to play it so much. And
Fantasy Life?
Fantasy Life, that's it. Yeah, Fantasy Life. Yeah, that game was great.
I don't even know that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to find because it wasn't
I miss Level 5.
Yeah, I do too.
Me too, man. What happened to them?
They're still
aren't they still around?
They are, but they shuttered all their Western studios, so I don't expect anything localized from them for a long time, if ever again. So,
and that makes me really sad. Since I've been playing it, I've been looking into all their stuff. I'm like, man, will I ever get a Dark Cloud 3? Because I've been really enjoying myself. It's not a great game, like I was saying, but
probably.
But they had started Dark Cloud 3 and it eventually got shelved, and assets from it got turned into Rogue Galaxy, and that's about it. But going back into it, so like the Giorama aspect of it's really cool, and there isn't that much like it even today. Like when you put down these things, you can put them anywhere, you can rotate them, but the coolest aspect is you have to get all the parts for all these buildings and all these structures. And once you get like the people that live in them, like Susie's house, you go talk to Susie, and you have to kind of like learn what else, like how does she want her house built. And so then you can go and find more parts for her house and expand it. And then there's a feature where it's like, well, how should we build the town? And each person has like something that they want. Like, oh, I really want to be by the waterfall so that I can fish in the pond below. And so doesn't want to be near the sheriff because it's loud. And you have to try and find a way to like navigate putting all these structures where everyone wants it to 100% the town. And it was something that I never did back in the day.
Have you ever heard of the game called Littlewood? I think Dennis has played it.
Yeah.
But it's not like the same kind of game, but it's like a Stardew Valley or etc., that type of genre where you're building a village and there's a mechanic in there where there are people like, I want this kind of house, or I want this type of thing, I want it placed here. It has something similar. That's why I was mentioning it.
No, I really like it, and it's not super deep, just like the combat, right? It's not super deep. It's just enough. But then there's also the weapon system where, again, these things break all the time. But once you level them up to level 5, you can then break them down into like a weapon sphere, and you can then add that a portion of that weapon's stats to another weapon to boost it and upgrade it. And you can do this over and over again until eventually it has good enough stats that you can then transform your weapon into a completely different looking weapon. It's got different stats, it's got different attributes, it can hold more attachments. And none of these things are super deep or groundbreaking, but when you put them together the way that they did, it's just enough that it's like once I get tired of dungeon crawling, I get to leave and I get to build this town. And once I get tired of that, I can go back and rework my weapons and then go back into another dungeon. And it's this really satisfying loop. As long as you're not spending like, 8 hours a day playing it's been a lot of fun for me. I've been spending anywhere from like 1 to 4 or 5 hours with it, and making some really good progress. I finally got just today further than I did back, in 2001, 2002 when I was playing it, and I'm really looking forward to going through it and completing it. And I might platinum this one. It's not a real difficult platinum.
Yeah.
There's only like 28 or so trophies, so I might go ahead and do that. As long as I don't miss anything.
Everybody remember when they announced True Fantasy online for the Xbox at level 5 was making, and they canceled it?
I don't remember that actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was like 2003. It was on 360. It was going to be a big. It was going to be a big online MMO, like 3,000 people in the game at one time, and yeah.
In 2003
on the
Yeah.
360.
Yeah.
That
Jesus.
wasn't happening.
No, they canceled that. They canceled that pretty quick around.
Yeah,
I think
not
it
even
was
Warcraft did that.
2005. I
Jesus.
think it was. Yeah, they had big ambitions for it.
I mean, you could do it. It would just be, moving at 3 frames per second.
Yeah, oh yeah, back
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
sure. We all had fiber and it was amazing internet everywhere in the world.
I'll be
yeah.
honest, it exceeded my expectations. I was only expecting 2 frames, but we got 3, boys.
Yeah.
We got 3.
We did it.
We did
We've
it.
made it.
Yeah.
That
We did
that
it.
third frame really brings the running to
Yeah.
life.
That's right. That fluidity.
Yeah.
Mwah. Chef's
Oh.
kiss, you know?
Not only does the leg go up and down, but you actually see the knee bend.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh man,
Game changer.
such
Oh,
high
God.
hopes in 2003.
Moving into modern times, the only other thing that I played recently was Mortal Kombat 11. And this is another franchise I've had a ton of history with. It was my first, fighting game ever on the Genesis, and I follow it every so often. And I've played through almost all the iterations, and I don't know how this one got past me. I know that I was working, retail at the time that it came out, and I just didn't care, I guess, at the time. And now I got it for free through the PlayStation Plus extra tiers. So I went through that. It's about a 4-hour campaign. I played through it, in one sitting. It does a really good job of pushing you forward and not letting you pause or stop and come back another day. And
Right.
they never cease to amaze me how good they are at creating these single player stories in fighting games. And the engine, alone in this one really, really impressed me. I mean, it just felt like I was watching a pretty decent budget animated film. The acting wasn't the best, but it wasn't atrocious, and I really enjoyed my time with it. It didn't come with the expansion, and I'm probably not going to spend any money on it, so I'll YouTube the rest of that story.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it.
Yeah,
I'm not good enough at fighting games to keep it on my system,
Yeah.
but
I'm not either, but I really enjoyed their what was the DC ones they did?
The Injustice game?
Injustice games, both of them.
yeah, I
one and
loved
two
Injustice.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
stories were really good in those. So.
Yeah,
Even though-
they've
I was
proven
addicted.
time and time again. I'm gonna keep coming back to whatever single player story fighting experience they want to throw out there.
Yeah, Injustice 2 is one of my favorite fighting games of all time because that story mode, first of all, blew me away, but just the fluidity of the combat. And as someone who, as much as I love fighting games, I've never been particularly good at them, even though I do invest a lot of time in more arcadey fighting games like Smash Brothers. I've been playing Smash Brothers since Nintendo 64, so I mean it's part of my DNA at this point. But other more traditional 2D fighting games like Injustice, like Street Fighter, like Tekken, stuff like that, I've never been particularly good with, but Injustice 2, man, something about it clicked with me, and like the control schemes were fantastic because I never felt they do something a little bit different from Injustice, probably because it's DC and they want to make it accessible to more people, but the control scheme in Injustice made more sense to me than say Mortal Kombat because I have played Mortal Kombat 11 as well, and I agree 100% with everything you said, Robert. But you know, it is that typical thing of like, man, some of these combos, dude. You know what I mean? You have to memorize a DNA sequence to do this. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
You know,
It's you
it's
know
funny you say that because I remember playing through Injustice 2 and I remember getting way more angry at it than I did with Mortal
really,
Kombat 11. And I think
really.
that's just my history with Mortal Kombat. I'm like, all right,
Mm,
I have a few characters that like I'm comfortable with enough
yeah,
that I can pull off some stupid stuff. But when they
yeah,
switch around and they're like, okay, now you have to play as Devora, I'm like, who the F is Devora? They weren't in Mortal Kombat 1, 2, or 3.
right,
And I'm
right.
like, I don't have any idea what's going on here. But yeah, you throw me in there with Scorpion and Liu Kang and Sub Zero, and I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah, let's do
nobody
it.
in the
Yeah,
story mode is gonna go against me.
right,
But
right.
I see what you're saying. You're right. Injustice is definitely more accessible. But I was used to the dial a combo,
Yeah,
from Mortal
no,
Kombat.
makes
So
sense.
for me, it was a change of pace and a little bit harder. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Injustice 2 just had that connection with me, and it felt so satisfying just hitting both triggers at the same time to initiate your special. But yeah, no, I don't know. Everything just made sense to me with Injustice. But no, obviously, you know, like you said, it's going to vary from everyone's sort of fighting history, right? People are going to prefer certain types of mechanics over others. But yeah, there's a certain control scheme that I just am more partial to, and Injustice just really nailed it on top of just having an incredible storyline with phenomenal graphics. I mean, my lord, still, that game came out in what, 2015, 2016? I don't know. But like,
I know a
still
long
that game,
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that game still looks better than most games today. Like, my lord. My lord.
Yeah.
And I maintain that game also in terms of lip syncing. You can have that game on mute and you could still tell what they're saying. I promise you. I promise you. Most
Just,
games, like
I
even
was
with
not
motion
impressed
capture,
with the lip syncing in 11.
yeah,
I'm
not in
sure.
11, yeah. But in Injustice 2, like, which is weird because it's still NetherRealm Studios. I don't know why they couldn't transfer that tech over. But,
Well, I mean, they're
but
saying things like, you know, Elseworld and all these
yeah,
other.
yeah, by the Elder Gods.
Like,
Yeah, no. So yeah,
how
things
am I
you wouldn't
supposed to lip
typically
read
hear.
that?
Right.
Like,
Things you wouldn't hear like Friday afternoon at a bank. You know, you're not gonna hear
exactly.
Yeah,
that.
right.
Or
Trying to
would you? You're
deposit
just
this
going to
check.
the wrong bank.
Yeah. You're supposed to go to Elseword National. But yeah, no, it's but I think I played God, what was it? I played Phantom Breaker, I think is what it's called. A couple months ago I reviewed that game, fighting game that initially came out on the Vita, but then they remade it, I think, on the Switch and I think various other platforms as well. But man, I clicked with that game too, right? So, but that was a traditional 2D fighting game. So, and it did have combos as well, but these combos didn't exceed more than three inputs at a time. You know, it was more so just like, I know you should be able to initiate, you can have a deep fighting system without the need for me to, you know, there comes a point where you do look stupid. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
when everyone in Mortal Kombat, for example, wants to do their fatality, dude, how many times have you seen people, whether it's in esports or just in general on YouTube videos, they crouch like 15 times before they, you know, initiate, and they just look so stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they look like they have the just Tourette's in place, you know, and they're just like, you know, they don't know what's going on, and it's
They're like silently beatboxing before their fatality.
Right, yeah.
right, exactly. So I'm like, look, can we just get to the point? There should be a special button. My bar is up. Please, just I can initiate it now. Let's just move forward with this, can we? All right, cool. But yeah,
I don't remember if it was new to 11 or if they introduced this in 10 or 10L, whatever that was. I don't remember. But they had this thing where you could press R1, the shoulder button at a specific time during your combo to create a stronger version of that combo. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a neat idea, but there's no way to know what the right time is because some of them you're supposed to press before it makes contact, and other ones it's as it makes contact. And
Yeah.
in the story mode, you're switching characters every other fight, and I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing here, and I just I'm just spamming my shoulder button, hoping that it connects at some point to get this extra damage in, but
Yeah. I
it
think
did it
that
didn't
lack
hit
of
for me.
Yeah, that lack of consistency can cause a lot of problems, right? And it's like I think that's why I like stuff like Smash Brothers and Phantom Breaker, like I mentioned, and even Injustice, because like everyone technically had the same, not moves, but the same inputs, right? So if I do right A, let's just say in Smash Brothers terms, that's going to be a side special, like a side smash, right? And no matter who you play, they have a side smash, right? It's not like all of a sudden right A doesn't work for Rosalina. She has nothing there, or like something like, or versus something like Scorpion, where, Scorpion is going to have, an up down, B. Well, that'll do something, but Sub-Zero, his up down B, that just doesn't exist in his move set. So I
Yeah,
appreciate consistency where I can input no matter who I'm playing this same move, but still have something that is a signature move to them. I just want inputs. I
yeah,
just want consistency. That's all I ask for, consistency.
100
So
percent.
yeah,
You'll have a set of characters like you said where it's like, oh, I just have to do back and then one of the face buttons, and I can do
yeah,
every move with this one. But then you move on to the next character, and it's like, oh, well, they're down forward and a face button, or
yeah,
down up
exactly.
down, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, cool,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. And it's like you said, right, where it's like when you're in that story mode and they're throwing you from character to character, there's that adjustment period, but you're still expected to win that fight to move on to move
Yeah,
on with the story, right? But it's like,
exactly.
but it can become frustrating, especially when are getting your ass beat, where because you don't know the characters, but you're thrown in and it's like thrown right into the deep end. It's just like, all right,
Yeah.
fight. That's
It's like I just wiped the floor in the last match, and now this one I can't even get a hit in because this
right,
person doesn't have a back square, you know?
right. And then
Give them
there's that
time. What
part.
if they swapped sides so that the directional is now the face buttons, and the face buttons do what the directional pad does?
Oh my God.
That would
Oh
really throw you
God,
off.
no, do
Can you
that.
just imagine just like the people like that part of Mortal Kombat 11, it's maybe like 2 or 3 hours in, but like where you're in that like Roman looking arena, right? And then just like the people in the stands just being like, yo, that dude's crazy. And then like 2 seconds later, find the next guy. What happened? He was doing such a great job over there. Like what? I was rooting for this guy. What happened? Now he's getting smacked. What's
Yeah,
going on?
exactly. Yeah. They did this like just the flow of the fights were a little bit off to me. So like you get through the first round, right? And in past games it would reset. You'd go to your side and then it would be, fight again. But in this for the second round they don't do that. You just like stand up and I can't tell you how it was probably 90% of all of my matches. Whenever I got to the second round, I didn't know it was time to where I could actually fight because they don't say anything. There's no countdown. I just get smashed in the face because the computer knows, oh, I can fight now. And I'm like, but we didn't even go to our sides. Like I just stood up and you're hitting me now. And
Right.
why? You're changing the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that fluidity and just keeping the pace going, but yeah, it can be a little disorienting for sure.
That's all I got, guys.
Oh, is that all you got? Okay, yeah.
That's all I got to say about Mortal Kombat.
All right. Well,
What else is there?
Dennis, go ahead. Tell us what you've been playing.
All right, let me bring up my list here. All right, so oh, awesome, perfect. So yeah, so definitely not a fighting game. More on the happier side of things. Instead, what we're fighting is puzzles instead of other people. I started playing. This was maybe about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I booted up because it was on Xbox Game Pass, and anybody who knows me knows I love puzzles. I booted up Escape Academy, right? And I love escape rooms in general, right? And what really got me into them um, was the Zero Escape games. And but still, nothing to this day has come um, close to what those games bring in terms of structure, like narrative structure, and just what you experience and just walk away with, when you're finished with those games, because they're mind blowing with all their scientific implementation in there as well. Um, But yeah, I was in an escape room mood or just a puzzle mood really, and booted up Escape Academy and got through the first level. It was a lot of fun, but then I realized that there was a co-op element to it. I was like, oh man, this would be like really fun to play with somebody else. So I got another controller for my girlfriend, and then we played it together, and we couldn't put it down. We couldn't put it down. I think maybe about 4 to 5 hours later, which was surprising because I just kind of wanted to play maybe like an hour or two, but time just flew, and the next thing we beat it. I mean, it was such a great time. But yeah, Escape Academy is just is a pure escape room game. It does have a story to it as well, but the story's kind of it's more so seasoning, just to kind of help, give more of a structure into why you're going from room to room. However, it does um, elaborate on itself further as you get closer to the end. Because as you get closer to the end, you kind of have this sort of portal-esque um, a storyline where it's like, oh, you realize the school's being run by someone corrupt, and then the person that helped you is actually going against you, kind of like Gladys with the test subjects and stuff like that. Let's see how good you do. Oh, but we're gonna try to kill you and coerce you into eating this cake, so or whatever. So but yeah, so it was fantastic that all these escape rooms had such personality in them, and everything had its own vibe, its own personality. You got a decent cast of characters. I don't want to say great, but a decent cast of characters. And yeah, so you go to this, well, academy, as you can imagine, and you're recruited because well, for story purposes, basically, and to figure out certain escape rooms that they're trying to figure out that haven't been figured out before. And in doing so, you can uncover sort of the quote unquote corruption that's sort of going on. Maybe not the best word to use for it, but yeah. And and yeah, you just and as a real escape room would be, you're timed. It's not like Zero Escape where you can just take your time with it. Um, but yeah, you are timed, so some rooms can take as little as 10 minutes. Other ones will take as long as 45 minutes.
Wow.
And they all vary in difficulty. There's no real difficulty scaling. Instead, before you do a room, it tells you how difficult it is, which I appreciate because that's just like a real escape room where it's just you have sort of like beginner, intermediate, and expert, so on. So. Um, but yeah, it was awesome. Just, what a great experience. Just, figuring out these puzzles together and just having just so much fun. And it's a fantastic co-op game. I mean, it's I can imagine it being a great game single player as well because it's definitely engaging. Um, but having two minds work together, um, definitely made the experience a lot more seamless because some of these rooms and they're not always rooms in a traditional sense that they're, indoors. One of them was completely outdoors. You were just sort of in this sort of, you know, uh, uh, you know, uh, this sort of estate basically outside as you were trying to, put pieces together and whatnot. Uh, but it makes things a little more seamless where it's like, okay, you go over there, you figure out what you can over there. I'll go over here. I'll figure out what I can over here. So, and yeah, just that collaboration and the ease of the controls because it's not complex at all. I mean, it really is just two controls. I mean, other than the movement, it's like A to pick up, and then like I don't know, man, that might have been it actually. That might have been it. Now that I think about it. uh, but but yeah, no, it was oh man, such a great experience. And yeah, I'm sure it's available on all platforms. It is
Yeah, I was just
available
looking it
through
up.
it's available through Xbox Game Pass, and so yeah, I mean, what a pleasant surprise. And again, I can't stress enough. This is the great part about Xbox Game Pass, and now what PlayStation is introducing with their tiers, where it's you'd be surprised. I don't care that we're not getting a AAA game every month. That is irrelevant to me. I want fun games. I don't
Right.
care what the size of this game is. Whether it's indie, AAA, double A. I don't care. I don't care. This game, as well as Dusk Falls, which I'll talk about later on, is were such pleasant surprises, and I probably would have never touched them or even known about them. Had they not been on Xbox Game Pass, you'd be surprised, man. These games, Xbox Game Pass gives a great amount of exposure to games that otherwise wouldn't have had it. And not because they don't deserve it, not because people aren't interested in them, but just because how many games now come out every week? It's hard to keep up with everything. So it's that oversaturation of content from every angle, especially when you own multiple platforms and you play on multiple platforms. It can become overwhelming. So you really got to pick and choose. Escape Academy, I was in the mood for something puzzle-esque. I was looking through what I owned, and I was pretty much either beat it or just wasn't really feeling with, it wasn't connecting with, it wasn't hitting what I wanted, in terms of checkboxes. So looking through Xbox Game Pass, Escape Academy was there. I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, absolutely. I want to do some escape room stuff. And then now, I mean, wow, what a fantastic experience! One of the best experiences I've had this year personally. And again, without Xbox Game Pass, that would have never happened.
Right.
So
And you said I only have to press one button.
uh, yeah, honestly, Rob, like you and Michelle would have a fantastic time with that
Yeah,
game.
I just
Like,
sent it to her because we've been looking for some good co-op stuff, and that sounds
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, like I think you guys would have a really, really great time with it. You guys get a lot of laughs out of it. You might face palm a bit, both of you, just like, because there were definitely moments, where it's like, because some of these puzzles can get complex, man. So I mean, face palming for a variety of reasons, not because you're like, oh my God, you didn't see that, but also because of like, oh, the time's running low. We can't figure this out. I think one of the closest I remember one of the maps that had 30 minutes that we had to do. We beat it when we had 10 seconds left. Like that was
Oh,
crazy.
wow. Yeah.
That was wild. That was wild. But it was again such an awesome experience. But yeah, Escape Academy. That's I've been playing that. Um, to move forward on the Switch, actually, I've been playing Hindsight. Beat that. That's the new game from Annapurna Interactive. We all know Annapurna here. We all
Yeah.
love Annapurna here. And this is their new game to come out after what released recently? Neon White and then Stray. Stray, of course.
Stray. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah,
How
Stray.
could you forget
Um,
Stray?
yeah, of course.
It's
But
forgettable. It's just this game with like a
Ah, yeah.
cat in it. It's like every other game. There's
yeah.
nothing, nothing unique about it at all.
The dedicated meow
Cat
button. Come
Quest,
on.
man. They just want to be Cat Quest. We've already got
Call of
Cat
Duty
Quest.
has a dedicated meow button at this point.
Ah. Fortnite has a meow button.
If only it
Oh,
did,
just
man. Fortnite would be more likely to have one than
Yeah,
Call
they
of Duty,
would, wouldn't
I would
they?
say. Yeah. That seems like a weird thing that
they
they
have a
would do.
whole weapon dedicated to it, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hindsight unfortunately fell a little bit under the radar just because the hype of Stray is still so high,
Yeah.
and so many people are still talking about that and playing it. Annapurna is still just promoting the hell of it, and as they should. I mean, it's becoming just an absolute hit for them. But Hindsight fell under the radar a little bit, and but yeah, I played it, and I will say right away, it's not going to be for everyone, but if you're into walking simulators and just very heavily emphasized um, narrative, uh, narratively driven games, um, I think you're really going to like what Hindsight offers because Hindsight is well, first of all, so you play as this protagonist. Her name is Mary, and she, in the beginning of the game, gets a phone call about some tragic news. Right. So you go home to where you grew up, and from there you're collecting these items, and through these items, they have memories attached to them. And when I was speaking to the developers a couple months ago, they referred to them as apertures, and they represent them in a really unique way because this game does a really seamless and cool thing in which how with the new Ratchet and Clank how you can just open up those portals and just teleport into a whole new level
Mhm.
like that, stuff like that. You do something similar here in Hindsight where if you take an object and turn it, it could look like a complete, matte object. But then as you tilt it, it can become a little bit translucent and you start to see an image start to form. Now, once that image forms, once you get it in that perfect angle, you just zoom right into it. And then all of a sudden you're in this new scenario, right? And it's so seamless. There's never, not a one loading screen throughout the entire experience, except for, when you first boot up the game. And, yeah, it was, I mean, it just blew my mind because of it. And I played it on Switch, ran great, looked great, and it was a fantastic, like really, really great story that really looked into the. It was very philosophical, right? So you're going to have a lot of, questions about, you know, life and morality and the choices that we make and the importance of the choices that we make and stuff like that. It's very linear though, so there's not much in terms of replay value. At the end of each chapter, you can select a piece of memorabilia, let's say, to take home with you because you only have a suitcase that can fit so much. But as you're going through each chapter and experiencing these various memories, you have certain objects that, hold sentimental value to you, but you can only take one at a time. So, every time she takes one with her, she has a different piece of dialogue, but otherwise, it's a fairly linear experience. It's really the only thing that's different. I think there's some artifacts or apertures rather that in each particular level that aren't necessary that you can still look into, so some people might miss those, but otherwise, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a straight shot from beginning to end. It's not particularly long. I think it's maybe 3 to 4 hours, is roughly how long how long it took for me to beat it. I almost beat it in one sitting. um but yeah, no, really well developed game, only made really by two people. There was technically more, but really just by two people. And yeah, it's a really, I don't want to say heartfelt, but it's a really touching story despite the despite the sadness that it's inspired from. It can be touching and it can be evocative. So but yeah, I mean, another solid, Annapurna game that they knocked out of the park with. So, but yeah, if you love walking simulators or just, you're just looking to relax and just really play through a story-driven game in its most purest form, then yeah, Hindsight's a great choice to jump into. So. So yeah, after that, I've been playing this one I played on Xbox, and so and I want to review this one. So this one is South of the Circle. Now, this one, speaking of narrative games, so this is a kind of a nice little segue into this. South of the Circle is also a very, narrative-driven game where, you will be going through memories also, actually. And but the art style is really, really cool with of the Circle. It has this sort of low polygonal, minimalistic art style to it that really lends itself well to the ease of the or rather it lends itself well to the pacing of the game. It doesn't try to overdo anything because, and I think it's smart because it's a game with fantastic dialogue and the characters you really feel for and grow a connection to. And because it's not super detailed, at least not in a traditional sense. Like you won't see like, you know, 4K textures or anything, Everything's very flat, almost like it's like paper mache almost, if you will. But um but it helps because I think you're able to focus more on the story and what's being said. The visuals are appealing, but they don't take your attention away from what's really happening.
Right.
And yeah, and the voice acting is just incredible as well. Everyone feels authentic. Everyone feels genuine. It does have motion capture as well, and you can sort of feel through the actions that are being taken the authenticity of it all. And yeah, it just feels like you're really getting a snapshot of someone's life, despite being a completely fiction, and, in a game at that. It's just really, really well put together, and it's honestly blown me away. And I think it's been one of the best choose your own adventure type games that I've played in quite a long time. And another thing to commend them on is they have a wonderful way of presenting uh you know how you want to respond, because it's not your typical response system that you would see in a Telltale game or in a supermassive game, right? Because this isn't necessarily done through dialogue, it's done through emotion. And through that emotion, then a piece of dialogue will be represented. So you typically have three different sets of emotions, we'll call them. You have, and these are represented or conveyed through shapes. So you have a circle, you have a rectangle, and you have a triangle. Now let's say triangle would be, you're nervous or you're shy or you're, concerned. Rectangle will be more authoritative, or stern or serious, and then circle would be more relaxed, more sarcastic, So, and each of those represents a variety of emotions that are similar to each other, like I said. And by choosing one of the shapes, because, you're not going to get like, a couple of sentences to choose from, you just get shapes. And you choose a shape and then they respond with a corresponding emotion under that symbol basically. So it's really clever and really unique and helps with the minimalistic art direction that it has. And again, it's interesting too because I think when you have that emotional response, you're not thinking too much about um, you know what to say to someone. You're thinking more on the lines of how to say something to someone, you know. So, and I appreciate that, and it gives much more, m- a much more, uh, just much more depth to the dynamics of what can happen within, a narrative structure that can go any which way, right? Because there are multiple paths as well, as you would expect. So it's really, really well done. And honestly, like it's again, if you love choose your own adventure games and games that are heavily story driven like this, please do yourself a favor and play it. I don't believe it's on Xbox Game Pass. This is technically my review because I got sent a review code for it. Um, but it's absolutely worth the price because I don't think it's too much. I can't imagine it's more than 20-25 bucks. And it is available on all platforms. So if you want to get it on Switch, Xbox, PC, PS4, whatever, by all means. And yeah, I think you'll have a really, really great time with it. It's really intelligent, really, really intelligent. And again, I think the most important part is the fact that it feels genuine, and I think that is largely due to the fact that the writing is just very, very good, like very good. Um, so yeah, the pacing can be a bit off at times. There are times where I'm just like, man, can we just move this along? But overall, really, really solid game, really, really solid experience, and one worth checking out again if you love choose your own adventure games for sure. Um, But yeah, so in addition to that, something a little less relaxing. Well, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it can be relaxing, I guess. But been playing Digimon Survive on the Nintendo Switch, and this game finally came out. Finally came out after what, 4 years? It was supposed to come out in either 2019 or 2020. Got delayed at least
Yeah,
18 different times.
I completely forgot about it until
Yeah, yeah.
a
Most
buddy
people did.
messaged me. Did you know this was out?
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. Which is weird because like this was a game that was hyped up and then Bandai just kind of like they made it seem like they abandoned it for a little bit. Everybody was worried like, oh my god, where'd this game go? Because they were so quiet for a long time. And then not only that, but review codes actually didn't go out until the game came out, which is like that's a big no-no for a game for a big RPG like this. Because then that tells me when you're especially when you're a AAA publisher and studio, if
Unless
you're
you're
bringing a
Bethesda.
game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, those bugs, man. They got to clean those out first. Uh, but it's usually it's more like 99% of the time it is very scary, right? Because those games typically aren't received well. It's like, ooh, they're probably holding off because they don't want reviews to come out early,
Right.
people to see how bad it is, and then they'll lose sales on it, right? They want to at least sell a couple copies before the reviews come out, you know. So,
Couldn't they just
but
embargo it,
no,
At least then at least people had a chance to play it.
right, right. At least, yeah. But I guess even then, they don't want any leaks or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. It's whatever. But this was a surprise because this game is like great. Like it's really, really great. It's one of the best Digimon games I think ever made, honestly. Not better than Cyber Sleuth. Cyber Sleuth is still on a whole other level, but these are also very different games because we're talking Cyber Sleuth is more of a JRPG. Digimon Survive is more on the lines of games like kind of I always mess up the pronunciation, but Utawareru Mono, which if you haven't played that, it's originally on Vita and then came to PS4, and we reviewed it a long time ago. It was actually one of the first reviews I did on the Gamers Lounge, actually. And I fell in love with the game. I'd never heard of the game before until it was offered to us, and then John sent it my way, and I reviewed it, and I fell in love with it. It is a great hybrid of visual novel and strategy RPG, which is what Digimon Survive is. But much like Utawareru Mono, they take a big emphasis on the visual novel portions over the strategy RPG gameplay portions. So you won't be out doing battles as much as you think you will be. It's going to be, I would say, let's say for the sake of easy math, let's just say 60-40, right? So 60% visual novel, 40% strategy RPG. Um, but it works. It works really well because Digimon Survive has such a great story to it so far that is it's engaging, and because it is a unique story and an original story, you don't need to have really any prior history at all with Digimon. So long as you have like some sort of interest in it, you're gonna have a great time with it because there's a whole new cast of characters. You're gonna see the same Digimon obviously, but other than that's it. That's it. Everything else is brand new. It's a perfect jumping off point if you want to get into the series if you haven't before, or if you've always been interested but didn't know where to begin. It's great for that. And because of the, dark tones that the story has, um, it just seems a lot more appealing because of it, because it's not doing the typical thing of it's not being dark for the sake of being dark, and it's respectful towards the narrative structure of how dark tones should be um, on display. And because of that, it makes it emotional in a lot of ways, and but it also does a very good job at making things captivating as well as just immersive. So the actual battling portions of it, when you're not in the visual novel segments, are really, really good. They have the core foundation of what would make a strategy RPG. Like you're gonna have your tiles and you're gonna move, and it's gonna be more often than not turn-based. Um, but it still they've added layers of depth to it that gives it that Digimon signature that still makes it feel unique and in a sort of league of its own. So it does it very, very well. But it's interesting because this is one of the few games where, like, even though I mean, I love visual novels. Anyone who knows me knows I love visual novels. But with something like Utawareru Mono, that game, even though it had a great story, it really shined the most in its RPG battles, and I wish there were more of it. But you would go literally 3 to 4 hours before you'd get into another battle. Like it was ridiculous, And but in the case of Digimon, it's pretty well balanced. You'd still go a long time in the visual novel segments, but I actually love the visual novel segments because they don't do it in a linear, kinetic fashion, like a traditional visual novel would be. The animations and the transitioning from sequence to sequence is incredible. It reminds me a lot of X-Blaze. I don't know if you guys remember, or X-Blaze, maybe it might have been called Cross Blaze, but it was a visual novel based off of Blaze Blue that was released on the Vita. And man, the sequencing and the animation in that is fantastic because it's not your typical, here's a static image or illustration of a character that's speaking, right? Like there was so much more to it. It was like watching an anime, right? It was awesome. And this is very much along those lines, and the illustrations are just fantastic. They're striking. And even when you're not in those visual novel segments, even outside of the strategy RPG elements, you can move around, not like freely, but you have a cursor that's sort of in a point and click fashion, something similar to Famicom Detective Club or Ace Attorney, games like that. And you just kind of, select things in the environment, objects of interest, things like that to get more information on them. And, you build bonds and affinities with both your Digimon and the other characters, and these can influence where the path of the story goes. There's multiple endings. It's a fairly meaty game. I mean, we're talking 30 to 40 hours.
Hmm.
But man, I mean, it is. I'm just glad it exceeded my expectations, because even though I was excited for it at first because of the constant delays and because of the lack of news and them being so quiet about it, your hype tends to go down and you start to worry a little bit, right?
Right.
But thankfully, it's not only met but exceeded my expectations a lot, and it's been such a great time. And for fans of Digimon, I mean, you're gonna love this. I know visual novels aren't everyone's cup of tea, but if you can keep an open mind, I think there's a lot here to really appreciate and enjoy. And if you love visual novels, then man, you're gonna have the time of your life with it. So it's really really great. Uh, but uh, but yeah, so moving on, I've also been playing, and I beat the Backrooms Lost and Found. This was a free game, I think, on PC. Now, the Backrooms, for no one, for those who aren't familiar, it's this weird sort of creepypasta thing that there was a picture that went up like years and years and years ago of someone who, yeah, they just took a picture. It could have been a carpenter or something like that. They took a picture of this building. It looked like an abandoned building, but I think they were just like doing some remodeling. And it was just this, it just looked so desolate and soulless. It was just literally just one room. If you just type in Backrooms picture on Google, you'll see it. It's just this soulless room of just like, and it looks like a maze almost, and it's just with this weird wallpaper, yellow wallpaper, and it just goes on for like ever. And people have taken that and just blown it up into just a multitude of things, and all within the horror genre, obviously.
Hmm. It was
And
hard to
they've
find a
made some,
trailer for the game because every time I Googled it, it would bring up all the other stuff. It was like
yeah, there's so
I
much
ended
stuff.
up
Yeah,
falling down a rabbit hole just trying to find the trailer for it. It was like
yeah,
it was crazy.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's an insane amount of stuff, and this is just one of many, and many more to come. If you go on Steam and type in Backrooms, there's so much stuff that says coming soon. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But honestly, like I'm for it though, because it's such, you can do so much with so little. And I think that sparks so much creativity and makes it exciting to see what the next developer is going to do with that idea, right? It's this thing that has infinite possibilities, really, that you can span into just really just any multitude of things. It's awesome to see. But in this particular case, Lost and Found, you go through the back rooms, and then it eventually just warps into this sort of almost Slenderman-esque gameplay loop, right? Of like, well, not loop because it does end, but you do have to find a certain number of things, and because you're going through these mazes, I mean, my lord, it takes a while. But even so, it wasn't too long of a game. I think my final time was around 55 minutes when I beat it, so it wasn't too long of a game. Um, which I'm glad it wasn't, because when you do get closer to the end, it starts to overstay its welcome a little bit, because you can only, I mean, after a while going through those mazes, it gets annoying. You start going in loops, start going in circles, everything looks the same, it gets ridiculous. But uh, it uh, it you know it only had a few jump scares, and instead it relied heavily on the atmosphere, really providing that sense of dread and uncertainty, and it did it really really well. And for a game that was free, I mean, man, like I would have happily paid for that game, honestly. Like that game would have been a game that absolutely is worth a price tag. I mean, I wouldn't say more than, I think $10 would be pushing it. I'd say a solid $5, 6.99. 6.99, honestly, perfect. 6.99. That's a good place. So, so, but yeah, it's free, so check it out if you're interested in it. And it's not long. But yeah, there's so many of these backrooms things now. Fan made, films even, and stories, short stories, and games, of course. I mean, it's gotten so out of hand, but I love it. I love it. I'm just super interested in it because, again, it's like you're exploring into the unknown and how it shifts and turns into God knows what. You never know what's around the corner, and even though it all looks the same, but when it starts to actually change, that almost becomes unsettling. That's that you would think that'd be exciting because you're like, oh my god, finally something new. But now it's like, oh no, this is, it's almost like Silent Hill, right? Where it's like everything's,
Right.
foggy at first, but then there's also the flip side, which isn't even any better. Everything gets rusty and, and it's like, it's still creepy, if not creepier. And then, you're just like, you hear the siren go off and you're just like, oh my god, like you were already scared, now you're more scared. And then when the siren goes off again, now you're going to be more scared going back into the foggy world. Like there's no sense of safety, so it's yeah, but it's for something that's free, I had a really good time with it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a fun little game.
Cool.
um Going back on the narrative stuff, I finally beat As Dusk Falls. I don't know if Nathaniel, did you end up beating this or no?
No, I hadn't played it since last time, so I'm still only did like the 2 chapters of that, and
Oh,
I
okay.
just haven't been on my Xbox, so I haven't, booted up again.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, it was a really, really great game. I mean, basically, just to kind of echo what Nathaniel said last time, I think, the story is really, really well done. Like, really well done. I think, when the trailer came out, it didn't do it any favors. It was negatively received, and even I was like, I don't know. But I don't know, I was just in the mood for something story related, and then especially, when I started hearing things little by little of people, on Twitter just being like, "Look, don't sleep on As Dusk Falls, man. The story here is actually like really, really good." And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'll try it. Let me put my feelings about the art direction aside for a second. Let me just play the game because I mean, if it's a great story, great. If it's a great game, awesome. I mean, who cares how it looks? So, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I took the jump because man, like, it was a fantastic story that has so many routes. My lord, like every time you beat a chapter or a book, it shows you all the routes you can take. And like my lord, I don't even want to think about getting the platinum for that because I think that's too much replay value for me. For like I like out 2-3 routes at most, but As Dusk Falls, man, had like
Honestly, though, it looks more complicated than I think it actually is. I think it's
is-
what it does. Instead of having, it's kind of got almost like a main through line where you're going to start here and you're going to end here.
yeah,
And then you have like a spot where you have kind of like 2 paths, but then reconverge, and then like they have a thing. So it kind of like has little branches, but it doesn't have like big major things that are going to be different with it, at least
yeah,
from what it looks like. It's like, okay, what flavor of story you're going to have from getting you from here to here might be a little bit different, but you'll still end up going here. You're not going to suddenly be like, hey, I'm on the moon, like
yeah.
it's not that different. It's just how you get there is the different thing, but you're still kind of going into the same sort of places. It kind of funnels you back in every once in a while.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it was so overwhelming to look at that I was like, no, I'm good. Like, just this is a one and done for me. So, um, but yeah, no, I had a really, really great time with it. When the credits rolled for the last time, you're gonna see credits a couple times in that game. Um, but when they finally
Did
rolled for the
Kojima
last
make that
time,
game? What?
Yeah.
I I think so, yeah. But when they finally rolled for the last time, it again, I'm not gonna spoil it, but
Well.
it wasn't a bad ending. Like it was actually a really good ending, but the fact that it ended where it ended, like you got to give me DLC or something, like something. You know what I mean? Like, and you'll see what I mean once you beat it. Nathaniel or anyone else who's listening, who's interested in the game. Like a fantastic story through and through. But the way it ends, at least the ending that I got, I think there was like technically 3 or 4 different endings, but now everything leading up to those endings can change in a variety of ways. But in terms of endings, there was maybe like 2 or 3 different ones, maybe 4. I don't know. I have to look check again. Um, but man, like, nah, you can't end it like that. Especially with as good as that story was. Nope. Nope, they better be working on an expansion or a DLC or something. I'm not talking As Dusk Falls 2. I'm talking like, no, there's something you're not telling me. There's more to this, you know. But you'll see what I mean once you get there.
As Dusk
But yeah,
Falls, the ending for real this time. We promise DLC.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I hope so. Like, my lord, but yeah, overall, really, really great game. Very, very gripping. Very gripping. Like, wow. Like, I'm glad I took a dive and just went through with it because, you know, really one of the best stories I've experienced in quite some time.
Yeah.
I also
So
think it looks really good. I
it
don't
look
think
it
it's just like
actually,
the trailers make it look more bland than it actually is when you're
yeah,
playing it.
yeah. Once you actually see it in motion, it's a lot more fluid than you would think for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then speaking of again more since I've been on such a narrative kick lately, I also finally beat Road 96. I talked about that a couple podcasts ago, but I booted that up again the other day, and I finally beat it. And yeah, it's also another great game. I didn't realize because I didn't mean to, but I almost had all the achievements after I got finished. I think I was just missing one, and it was such a stupid thing too. Of like in the beginning of episode one, it was like, yeah, when you're at the camp, just blow out the fire. I was like, okay, that's it. You get an achievement for that. I was like, okay, so I do that. So now I got 1,000 out of 1,000, so I'm happy with that. But really, really neat game, and the way it tells its story through a variety of perspectives and indirectly through a bunch of different characters as well. Because I think you have about 8 different characters um, that have their own stories that you experience through meeting them indirectly from episode to episode, but also playing as these anonymous teens from episode to episode that are all trying to escape the country because it's a very, war-torn uh, country that, has a very corrupt government. So yeah, and then as you play through the game, your responses to certain people will dictate who they vote for also, whether they're going to be on the side of the corrupt politician, on the side of the person that's hoping to be a new face for a new future, or the third option, which is more like neutral. But yeah, super. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk too long about it, but it was super interesting game. Great to check out. Also on Xbox Game Pass, just like As Dusk Falls is, and definitely worth a play. If you want to experience a new type of. I don't even know if I'd want to call it a choose your own adventure game. I guess technically it could fall into that category, but it was just so unique. I've never played anything like it, and all the environments that you experience, and the stories that you experience from character to character are just really, really well done. And some are really funny, some are really sad, some are exciting, some are thrilling. You have like, car chases and things like that too. It gets crazy. Um, but yeah, super, super interesting how the gameplay loop of that works. But yeah, Road 96, go check that out. Everything takes place in 1996, and so if you grew up in the 90s, you might you know notice a couple things. So they did a very good job with sort of recreating that feeling um, of the 90s. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, onwards from that, I finally beat Live Alive, so I beat it. Uh, you know, I talked about it last time, but man, what a fantastic game. I think this is one of my new favorite RPGs of all time. All
Mhm.
time. Like, man, it's crazy that this game initially came out in 1994, I think,
Something like
on the
that.
Super Nintendo.
4 or 5, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, around there. And look, better late than never, right? Because we got this beautiful remake, um, well over 20 years later, well over 25 years later,
Yeah.
and wow, what a game!
Yeah.
What a
There's a
game! I mean,
reason why
just
fans translated that game into ROM and on ROMs, and
yeah.
played. Yeah.
Um, all the different experiences, from story to story are great. I mean, they can range anywhere from 30 minutes, yes, 30 minutes, all the way up to, where they averaged about 4 to 5 hours. I want to say 4 hours is where they usually average. The longest I played was probably 5 hours. But yeah, 3.5 to 4 hours is roughly how much each lasted. There was really only one that lasted only
Yeah.
30 minutes to an hour. And that was the present day one, because that one you're just going through like a Street Fighter type thing where you're just fighting multiple people, and yeah, you can finish that real quick. So, but uh, but yeah, I mean, I guess even though I technically beat it, I haven't 100% it yet because when you beat it, it unlocks 2 extra chapters. Actually, I didn't realize that was a thing. You know, I was like, oh my god, okay, I beat it. This is the last chapter. Awesome, and it did the whole credits that it would do. Thank you for playing Live Alive, all that. Then right when the credits stopped and it took me back to the main menu, it's like, hey, 2 more chapters have been unlocked. I was like, what? That's awesome. So I am still playing through it. One of them is a medieval one. I forgot what the other one is. Um, but uh, but yeah, no, it's again one of my favorite RPGs ever now of all time, and each story was just so well made, and I want more games like this. I want
Yeah.
because it's much more palatable and having that consistency of systems and within the same engine because everyone's menu looked the same. The only real difference was the art style from story to story, and of course the stories within each chapter, right? So, but otherwise the battle mechanics were the same. The user interface was the same, so you had that familiarity going from story to story rather than having to learn everything new all over again. And I want more games like this. I think this
Yeah.
is fantastic. This is brilliant, compiling these nice, palatable RPGs that are on the shorter side of things that get rid of all the bloat and just give you a pure, great RPG experience that gives you everything you ever want from an RPG without, again, all the overly complex mechanics that are just there out of you know, just because they can, not because they should,
Right.
So, but great compilation of games and stories from just a variety of minds that are in there. And yeah, Live Alive is brilliant. I think it's one of the best things Square Enix has put out in a very long time. That HD 2D engine, man, is just so
Mm-hmm.
good. It's got to be one of my favorite engines. It's got to be like top three, easy right now. Like it's such a wonderful engine, and I can't wait to see what else they do in the future with it. I'm excited for that Dragon Quest remake that they do in that engine because
Yeah.
that's gonna be wow, chef's kiss for sure. So, but yeah, and lastly, also on the Switch, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I was hoping to beat 2 before 3 came out, but yeah, we all know how that goes with Xenoblade.
Yeah.
Xenoblade, they're very big games, so uh, but yeah, no, it's brilliant so far. I'm already immediately liking it more than 2, and not just because it has that fresh carpet smell, that new carpet smell, but it's got that. It's just everything about it is just so. It's overhauled for the better. It's still very much inherently Xenoblade in terms of the battle mechanics and stuff like that, but everything from the user interface to the intuitiveness of it and the ergonomics and everything just makes sense. And
Do I
I'm
need to
playing
have
with
played the other two?
no. They're very much just like Final Fantasy, where each one you can jump in and
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah. So even though they did say that this is sort of the end of the trilogy, but they have no real relation. I think maybe
Yeah.
just the universe that they're in. I think they all share the same sort of world and universe because they do have a similar environment from each one. But otherwise, yeah, no, you can jump into whichever one you want. Whether it's you can go from 3 to 1 to 2 if you want. That'd be fine. Yeah. Or even Torna. So, uh, but yeah, no, this is just such a fantastic game. I'm still playing through it. Obviously, I mean, it just came out, but um, such a great experience. Beautiful world, great cast of characters. The voice acting is so much better in
Mm.
this game than it was in 2 because everyone sounded so bored and tired in 2. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily like bad voice acting. It just felt unenthused, right? Like it was just like they had to do it very quickly, and then they probably didn't even go into the studio. They probably just did it in their closet. They were just
That's
like,
what it
just like,
sounded
oh,
like.
Pyra, no, yeah, oh no, that's just what it was. But this one actually has like emotion to it, and the
Yeah.
music, the music, of course, composed by Yoko Shimomura. She's a brilliant composer. So of course, I mean, it's of course the music's gonna be good. You see her name attached to anything, you're in for a great time. Or by the way, she also composed Live Alive, so that's why Live Alive has a phenomenal
Yeah.
soundtrack as well. So, but but yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, man. I mean, what it's hard to find the words for what to say because it's so vast in scope. But if you want, if it's been a while since you've played a massive JRPG. Now I wouldn't recommend it to Nathaniel because I know he's playing Tales of Arise. So
Like, I just started that one. I'll keep Xenoblade Chronicles
Okay.
3 in the back burner, maybe. Also, because it's on
Okay.
Switch, it'll be like a very big, just like, I would not feel good about it going from that on PC to a Xenoblade on the
Yeah.
Switch would just be like, whoa,
Right.
whiplash.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
what's this resolution and frame rate? Oh, you know.
Yeah. Which also, by the way, that's also better than it was in 2. The
That's
handheld mode,
good
which I
because
think
2
is
was just not good because I played it right when that one came out and
Yeah.
it was not good right when it came out. So the fact
Yeah.
that 3 is running good out of the gate is a good thing.
Yeah, running good, looking great. Also, you still notice a bit of a resolution drop, but not anywhere near as egregious as it was with Xenoblade 2. Because Xenoblade 2, I mean, you saw it got to a point, especially in those bigger areas, pixels. That was on the
Yeah.
screen. I could count every pixel.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I
With
mean, it's
Xenoblade
probably
Chronicles 2.
because, hey, we did 2, then we improved on 2, and then we saw what we did wrong, and then we fixed it for 3. That's
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's
'cause I'm
definitely a lot
assuming
of
it's the same
optimization.
engine and all that, so they're just more
Yeah.
experienced with it,
Looks
so they
like it.
can polish it better this time. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, but the game on TV runs great, looks great. It scales really well, whether you're playing on a 4K TV or just a 1440p TV. So it scales really, really well. But yeah, handheld mode, which I think was the most concerning part for people for a while, thankfully looks and runs great. So yeah, all those worries right out the window. It is just a great experience through and through. And man, those cinematics, man, they're they're so good. Some of the best cinematics I've seen in a while for a JRPG. They really went all out for this, and especially the quick turnaround rate for this. Just
Mhm.
because these games are not. I mean, it's Xenoblade. Games of this scale are not easy to make,
Yeah.
and they take a long, long time. So,
Well, we've gotten two
but
Xenoblade games closer together than we did. 1 and 2 took longer to get. The years
right,
in between were longer than this, and
yeah,
I guess because it's on the same engine, you just
probably easier to build for. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, they don't have
Um,
to develop the engine quite as much.
Right.
They
Yeah,
have the
Yeah.
base. They can
definitely cuts
do
it in
some
half.
improvements, but you're not starting
Yeah.
from scratch.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, but yeah, incredible game. Anyone who's looking for that next big JRPG experience right now, look no further than Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Incredible. So
It'll be on my list to pick up at some point. I don't know why. I probably will
Yep.
never
I
play
thought you got the
it.
collector's edition,
I
huh?
I
Not on
always
that
mean
one,
to pick
no,
up
because
those.
you had to
Oh,
get it
okay.
from Nintendo, so I never got a
That's
chance
right.
to get
The
it.
website
So
was always down.
yeah, the website was always down, so I just gave
Yeah.
up. I have all the other collector's editions, but that one, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I'll just have a big empty thing on the shelf for it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It won't bug
Just,
me at all. It won't bug
just
me
take
at
a
all.
just take a piece of cardboard and just place it where you would place
It'll
your collector's edition for Xenoblade Chronicles, and just put in big markers Xenoblade Chronicles 3 pending.
it'll be
Or
right
something.
there
I
with
don't know.
my
Placeholder.
It'll be right there with my what was that Arkham City collector's edition. I remember I had that thing
Oh, yeah.
pre-ordered, had the statue and everything, and then all of a sudden it just got nah, we're not doing that. It's like
Oh no, that was
Oh
Arkham Knight,
God,
wasn't it? That had
yeah,
the big
that was
Batmobile.
the
yeah,
with the
Arkham Knight.
Batmobile.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah, the
I'm
Arkham Knight.
still bitter about that
Yeah,
one.
I
Yep,
am too.
yep, I remember that. Yeah.
I'm still bitter about that one.
That
too.
was crazy. That was a mess. When that whole thing
Dude,
happened, that was a mess.
Yeah.
they told retailers what, like 2 weeks before it came out.
Yeah,
Like it was
it's not happening.
awful.
Oh yeah, I was.
Were we working
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
together at
still
the
working
time,
at GameStop.
Robert?
Yeah.
No, I was at my old store on Capitol.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
was.
Gotcha. I just couldn't
man,
remember.
I was angry. I was so mad. But oh well.
What a time. What a
Yeah,
time.
what a time. Now, and back then it was like, oh, I think it was like $200. It's like, man, that's crazy spending on collectors. Now every collector's edition is $200. It comes with less stuff.
I think that one was $300 because I
Maybe,
remember
know.
when we canceled it, I was really upset because I couldn't transfer it over to the limited edition just to get the statue because those
Yeah.
were sold out for years at that point. So
Yeah.
I ended up putting that money towards the special Batman PS4 that was coming out, but I never ended up getting that either because I didn't need another PS4.
Yeah, because that's what ticked me off. I had that on pre-order, and then it was like, well, you canceled that, but I couldn't get the limited because they were already sold out a long time ago. It was like, so I just had to settle for the regular $60 box copy. And
I ended up finding another GameStop that had an extra of the Xbox version of the limited edition.
Yeah.
So I bought it, immediately traded in the game, and I was like, All right, cool. I guess I paid $60 for the statue that lights up. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah. Still.
You know what's funny? I did that for Darksiders 3 because I really wanted that Fury statue.
Yeah.
So I found
Nice.
that really, really cheap. And I was like, I'll just do it for the statue, man, because I mean, the game I already had at that point, but still, I
Yeah.
wanted that statue. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful statue.
I wanted that Arkham statue just because I had the Arkham Origins one with the Joker with all the TVs that light up behind it. It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I wanted that to go
Oh,
with it.
yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
nope. And then I just stopped buying collector's editions for the most part.
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, if they're under $100, I'll buy them. But if they're over $100,
Yeah.
forget it.
Well,
I'm not doing
yeah,
it.
speaking of, not to get too sidetracked, but speaking of, I don't know if you guys saw. I mean, it's a weird collector's edition, but it's only $90. But like the Devil Inside, that new Dark Pictures game, the collector's edition for that is only $90, and it comes with. I mean, I don't even know how many things, but the main star of the show, that thing is like this huge. I think it's an animatronic too, but like a huge bust. That's like an animatronic of like this weird looking dude that looks like New 52 Joker. With the face peeled off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how are
Crazy,
they
but for
making that
$90.
so cheap? If it was anybody else, it'd be like $300 or more. It's like,
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Because
Weird.
the game itself, I think, will be minimum $40. I don't think they'll make it 60, but 40 for the game, and then tack on an additional 40 or 50 for everything else. I mean, that's surprising, all things considered, because like you
Yeah.
said, everything's going 200, 250. I think.
Yeah, or they're $250 and they don't come with a copy of the game, even a digital copy of the game. Some
Oh
of them
my
just come
God,
with
yeah.
stuff.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I'm glad that's not the news story this week.
No.
No.
I just like I hate it when collector's editions are like $250, come with all the stuff, come with a steel box for the game, but don't come with a copy of the game. It's a digital copy of the game. It's like
Who do you think you are? You know what I mean? To do something
you're
like
God of
that.
War.
Like,
That's who
genuinely,
you are. That's the latest victim. You're God of War.
No,
And people
see,
will buy the $70 game just to pop it into that case on top of the $200 or $300 they paid for the collector's edition.
I don't even like steelbook cases. They don't look good on the shelf with my other games. Where they all got that same like line across it with the PS5 on it or whatever console you have. Nope, you put that steel box in there. It's a different size.
I keep mine on the other end now that they're all they're so you got
no, but then you got to alphabetize the normal games and then the steelbook games for each console.
That's exactly what I do,
difficult.
Robert. I put my steelbooks in a whole separate section.
Yeah, I do too. My
This is why I'm 90% digital now.
That's me. Yeah, that's me. Now I just try to make sure the icons look nice. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly, right? So.
I remember, back in the PS2 days when the greatest hits were a big deal. They had the red logos on there.
Mm-hmm.
I was not having it with these red logos. So I would go online and there was this website you could go to and you could print off all the original cover arts and I would put that in my box and we're good to go.
I'm just imagining Robert in the store just being like, what is this? What is this? Red all over.
That never really bothered me. That never bothered me at all.
It didn't bother me too much.
And that's because I come from the Genesis age where the boxes started out black with the grid of white, and then a couple years later they changed to red. So, you have black, red, black, red, black, red, red, black, red. It's like, whatever. No big deal. So now it's just like, oh, I don't care. I mean, it's fine. But I get it if you're OCD with that kind of stuff. I totally get it. I mean,
it was just the collector and me wanted to go like super collector. And it was like, no, they all have to match. It wasn't like, oh, I'm afraid to bring Susie home because she's going to judge my red greatest hit cases.
I'm sure she cared.
Like, oh my God. She's telling her girlfriends, right? Like, oh, this guy I was seeing. Oh, you should have seen his collection.
What is it? What is the gift that Nathaniel always puts in our chat when I post? Look what I got. He goes, behold. My stuff.
From Ragnarok.
Yeah, from Ragnarok. Yeah, there's Robert when he comes to behold my stuff.
statue, you know, poster,
Cool.
massive cardboard standee.
Yeah, see, I tricked my wife.
She sees the greatest hits case and walks out the door.
She
You know?
didn't see any of that stuff because I didn't collect any of that stuff hardcore until we got married. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm collecting this action.
No, I was very
like...
I was strategic about it, right? You don't have any of that stuff in the common rooms. So by the time they're willing to go into your room, you're like, well, at this point.
That's an extra couple minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
You've already agreed.
Yep, too late. Can't take it back now. It's too late.
Consent was given.
But they're all staring at me. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
So bad.
This took a turn.
Yeah, it took a turn real quick, didn't it? I figured it would. Yeah, but that's okay. It's no big deal. It's after 11 o'clock here. It's fine. We can we can take that turn.
Yeah, we're in that part of the show.
Yeah, we're in that part of the show. You can take that turn now. So, but listen,
if you've made it this far.
Yeah, if you made it this far. So let's hit a couple of news stories. Microsoft is starting to test their Game Pass family plan. I had sent this in the message chat with us the other day. This is, if this holds, it's about $25 a month US. It's only available in, where is it, Ireland and Colombia right now. So you can have up to 5 people on your account to share it, and the only restriction is they have to be in the same country. They don't have to be in the same house. They don't have to be in the same state. They just have to be in the same country. So technically, if you have 5 friends,
I mean,
it's $5.
It comes out to what, $60 a year per person?
Yeah, it's $5 a person. Now it's like
Let's
Nathaniel
go.
said. Yeah, well, you know, and that's what I told Nathaniel. That's what I said. But you know, Nathaniel's like, "Well, I'm paid up for 2 years." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm paid up for 2 years too." But after that 2 years, $5 a month.
Well, I'm not. So
I should work it out because of the deal or whatever that I did when I got the 3 years total or whatever it was. If you paid it per month, I wonder what it would be. I'd have to go do the math on that.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember exactly what the total was now off the
I
top
don't
of my
remember
head.
either. Mine was just because I got it on the whatever they called it, the payment plan thing.
Well, I did the
Also,
thing where you convert
looking at
gold
the-
into Game Pass, and it
Right.
makes it a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah.
it looks like, looking at the article, it's actually Game Pass Ultimate too, which is
Yeah.
even better. Like,
That's
oh
what
my
I've
god,
got.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
can do
awesome.
PC as well.
yeah.
So hopefully, I would say that'll probably be. I'm guessing by the end of the year they'll probably have that up for everybody. I'm sure that's going to be a holiday thing. Hey, look, because that's been the most requested thing is people want a family plan, and I get that. I totally get that. So
Yeah. Well, plus they typically do like big system updates or things like that in the fall. So this would not necessarily be a system update, but like a features update that they could totally roll out and be like, "Here you go."
Yep. So if you got 4 other friends and you want to share an account and you all live in the same country, go for it. I mean, it's a deal. Microsoft is giving devs on the Series S a little more memory to improve graphic performance. For some reason, I can't spit that out. Hey, I'm all for graphic performance out of that little box, because I tell you what, that Series S is already a fantastic little system anyway. You give it a little more boost, and
I'm really curious to see how this actually impacts it. What's the memory going to go towards? Is it going to be frame rate capabilities, or what are we talking here?
I think what it is that they're running into bottlenecks because of the less memory in the S. So giving them a little bit more system memory that they can load things into and have available to a game lets them tweak it just that little bit more, so they can tweak performance or whatever. It's probably going to depend per game on what they actually get out of it. But it's just like, here you go. Here's a little bit more headroom that you guys can play with.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how many devs may go back to some of the older games and tweak them. I mean, I would
love to see the numbers on the Series S. I want to know if it's still selling decently, or if it's kind of plateaued, if it's in the same sort of demand as the X. I don't know.
Good luck, because Microsoft never release
I know.
numbers. So
we'll never hear it.
Yeah, you just have to kind of guess. You know, you have to go on websites of kind of guess. They make guesstimates. But I will say I've seen more Series S in the wild than I've seen Series X. I didn't see my first Series X at a Target until 2-3 weeks ago, and that's the first time I have ever seen a Series X. Usually I can go in and most stores have at least 1 to 3 Series S's on the shelf at all times. They seem to be really easy to get a hold of. So
I've been able to put them in my online shopping carts plenty of times. I haven't really gone to any physical locations in a while.
Yeah. Well, when I'm out and about, I just get I go stick my nose in the store just to get out of the truck and stretch for a few minutes. So usually I wander back to the electronics just to see what they got. So yeah, that's the only reason why I know, is because I just happen to be out and about. So, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how much things improve, because I think things run pretty well on the Series S for those that seem to be able to harness it. So. So the past couple of weeks since we have been away, the past 2 weeks, a lot of stuff has come out on Reddit from the things about the Activision Blizzard purchase from Microsoft. So Brazil released a lot of the transcripts and stuff, and there's one Reddit user, he's went through pages and pages and translated all of it from Portuguese. It's like, man, you got a lot of time on your hands. I wish I had that much time on my hands to do stuff. But apparently Sony, when they spoke to Brazil, they believe that Xbox owning Call of Duty would influence users on what console they would buy. Even though Microsoft says they're going to keep that game multi-platform. And I don't see any reason why Microsoft won't. They'll make more money keeping it multi-platform, I still say, than they would if they kept it exclusive. Because I don't see your hardcore Call of Duty players. They're going to play with wherever their friends play. So if their friends are still on PlayStation, they're going to stay on PlayStation if it's available on PlayStation. I don't see them going out and buying a $500 system just for Call of Duty. I just don't see it. But
I mean, there's a lot of factors involved here, right? Like, I fully believe this to change over time. And I think as we get further down and they're like, oh, well, best on Xbox, and whatever that means, maybe it's going to run native 4K or 60 frames per second, or it has 120 FPS mode, whatever exclusive thing they have, just to be like, yeah, you can play it anywhere, but this version's the best.
Right.
I don't think they're wrong. I think, even as somebody who primarily plays on PlayStation, yeah, my friends are going to dictate where I play first and foremost, but outside of that, just like back in the PS2 days, it's like, well, I like to research and see what game has, which version of each game has the feature that I want the most. And I don't think this is going to be as pronounced as it was back then, when it's like, oh, well, the Xbox version had the best graphics, but the PS2 version had this one extra character, but the GameCube version actually had this training mode in there, and it's like, well, which extra feature do I want? It's not going to be like that.
No.
But I don't think there's anything wrong.
Like, the phrasing is what I find funny here, because you could like flip it around and be like saying like, well, Sony owning God of War could influence people to buy the PlayStation, or Xbox 100%. Owning Halo. It's like, the only thing that's different here is because Call of Duty is a multi-platform game, and it's really, really big, that a lot of people play, so everyone's worried like, well, I don't know, well, what if it goes, exclusive to Xbox, and Sony's trying to capitalize that on a little bit, saying like, oh no, it could be bad, and kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't think
they're saying that it's.
But who cares?
I don't think they're saying it's going to be bad. I mean, this is just so
it's
matter
bad for
of fact
Sony, because they want all those players.
Well,
that's what Sony's. So they're trying to frame it in a way that But
they're not really framing it in any way, from what I see. This is just them responding to a behind closed door question. Hey, do you think this could influence?
Well,
sure, yeah. I mean, I don't see anything.
If you actually look up and read the whole thing about what they said, one of the things was they said that no game can compete with Call of Duty. No game. So, did you not just buy Bungie, who makes a first-person shooter? You're telling me that Bungie cannot make a first-person shooter that could compete with Call of Duty? I find that hard to believe. What about all these other studios that you have in your arsenal of Insomniac and Gorilla and all these other places, and you're telling me none of them games can compete with Call of Duty because Microsoft is going to have control over it? That's bullcrap.
It seems disrespectful towards
Yeah,
them,
it seems disrespectful to me. Plus, Sony's acting like, with the way they worded that whole thing, they're acting like there's some small little company that's going to get run over by big bad Microsoft, and it's totally not true, and it's not the way it's going to happen. Microsoft,
All
Sony
this is
big.
it's a corporation
Yeah.
trying to block another corporation from getting an advantage in the marketplace. Is there a grain of truth in there? Sure. Is it as big as they're wanting, everyone to think it is? Probably not.
No, it's not.
I haven't read this article, end to end, but I mean, what do they mean by compete with Call of Duty? Do they mean they can't make as good of a game?
Yes,
I don't know. Or are they saying we can't compete with those sales? Call of Duty is this huge beast. There's no IP that can compete with, the sales that this generates. I don't know, and I don't know if it says that in the article. Maybe one of you guys have read it all the way through and have that insight.
I think it boils down to Sony doesn't want to pay Microsoft money, because that's what's going to happen. The thing about it is they all have a contract, and Sony said they were going to, or Microsoft said they were going to keep it when they got Activision. They've got a 3-year contract with Activision for exclusive content, for media rights to promote the game and everything like that, which means they're going to pay Microsoft money, while Microsoft is going to go ahead and say, hey, you can go over here to Sony and you can pay $70 to play that game. You could come over here to Microsoft and pay $70 to play that game, but you're also going to be able to play it on Game Pass. And that's what Sony has a problem with. That's what they have a problem with, because they're afraid that more people are going to come to Microsoft because they won't have to pay $70 to Sony for the game. They just think that, and I think that's ridiculous.
I think the part that kills me the most is, like, yes, I understand it's such a juggernaut property, but also, like, why don't you just focus, like, investing your resources into your first-party studios to make something that's great? Never mind this military shooter. Just start making your own unique, great experiences, which they already do.
And that's why they bought Bungie. I mean, Bungie makes first-person shooters. They have the infrastructure to play online and stuff, and Sony came out and said, this is why we bought them, even though they're still going to make games on other systems.
It sounds like, to me, where it's just like when there's two people who have the same best friend, right? And then that best friend just decides to spend more time at their house than their house, and then they're getting offended by it. That's all it is, but it's like, why don't you just, rather than trying to coerce them into just being like, oh no, come over here, just, like, I don't know, invest into your own stuff, make it more appealing, make your platform more appealing.
There's other things that they said in that report, like, they said that nothing can compete with Game Pass for at least another 4 or 5 years, because it'll take time to build something like that up. Well, didn't Sony just say a year or two ago that this was not sustainable? There's no way that Game Pass is sustainable. And then in another breath they say, well, this is just something that nobody can just compete with. It comes off.
Guess what, Sony? If you put a bunch of your first-party stuff onto your PS Plus thing and do other things and basically just clone Game Pass instead of doing the convoluted thing you've got, maybe you would get a lot more people going there because it would be more worth it, just like Game Pass is.
I don't know. It just makes Sony sound like, oh, poor us. We're so little, and a big foot is going to step down on our throat if this goes through. Don't let this go through. Literally every other publisher and company that Brazil interviewed has said, well, it's fine. Good, let them have it. They'll run it better than it's running right now. Let them have it. If Microsoft had come in and said, no, we're not going to put this, they're all going to be exclusives. And I think that's what a lot of people can't understand, is why would Microsoft pay $70 billion for a company and not make Call of Duty exclusive? Because they will make more money if they leave it multi-platform, because that thing makes money.
I mean, they've done it before with like Minecraft and things where, they'll make more money. Maybe like the next console eventually down the road, or maybe they just phase it out because it never doesn't make money anymore, because goodness knows Call of Duty's getting old at this point, but you never know what the future's going to bring.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, like it's still big and it will be big for a while, but it's not going to stay forever. Nothing does.
So then Microsoft's response to it in the same things was, well, Sony blocks the rights, pays to block the rights for games on Game Pass. They tell publishers, well, we'll pay you this much money. Don't put your game on Game Pass. Now, my question with that is are they saying, is Sony saying we'll give you money to develop that game, put it on our platform, put it on Xbox, put it on PC, just don't put it on Game Pass? Are they just throwing money at companies saying, and we don't
Well, from
know.
what I understand, it's part of a thing. So, like, they have a whole, like, say they're doing a marketing deal or something else.
Yeah.
That is a clause in a thing of like, hey, if we do this, you cannot put it. It's not like they're just specifically
Right.
only going out
Yeah,
there and saying, hey, if you don't put it on Game Pass, we'll give you money. It's more a part of a bigger deal.
yeah, that's a really weird way to word that. I mean, they're paying for some form of exclusivity. They're not saying just don't put it on Game Pass.
Well, and
That's just a silly way to put it.
this is nothing new from any company, and I know I've seen a lot of people go, well, Microsoft has done this. Microsoft did it with Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider. It had a year exclusivity to it. They didn't do it like Sony did with Final Fantasy VII. They said, well, it's a year exclusivity, and then about 10 months before the exclusivity was up, Sony paid Square more money to go ahead and keep that exclusive on PlayStation. That's why it hasn't appeared on Xbox yet. It's because they paid more money to extend that exclusivity. But what's funny is and I don't mean this as a disrespect to anybody who's younger. So anybody sitting in this podcast right now, this is not geared towards you, but I remember a time in the 80s when the NES came out and you would want to play Batman on the Genesis. Why couldn't you? Well, it's because the way
You
it
shouldn't
worked.
want to.
Well, the way it worked with Nintendo was not only did you have to buy licensing rights with Nintendo, you had to sign a contract that said that game would be exclusive to Nintendo for so long. You also had to buy the chips off of them to make that game on Nintendo, and you had to buy the boxes off of them to make Nintendo, make that game work on Nintendo. I mean, how do people think this stuff works? I mean,
Well, that's also
when
what
Xbox
they
makes
used.
a Series X, it has a Blu-ray player in it. Guess who gets money from that? Sony, because they have a
That's right.
copyright with Toshiba and Philips Magnavox on
Yeah.
Blu-ray players. So
They
Sony's-
all have to pay each other
Yeah.
for whatever IP
well,
or
and
property that they're looking for.
Your
Like,
streaming games that you play on PlayStation 5 on Essentials or the whatever the highest one is, the Ultimate. Those
Premiere?
are
I don't know. I don't
well,
know.
I don't know if you have that or not. But anyway, those PlayStation 3 games that stream, you know what those stream off of? They stream off of Azure that Microsoft owns that they run
That's right.
xCloud off of. It's the same thing, and Sony pays Microsoft money for that. It's
I thought they used their Gaikai technology.
they do not. They
No,
moved
they made a
to
deal with
Microsoft.
Azure
They made a deal with
about
Microsoft
a year and a half
yeah,
ago.
a year and a
something
half,
like
2
that?
years ago.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
it's all running off Microsoft. So Sony's paying Microsoft money anyway. Here's the thing: all this stuff goes in behind, shuffling money back and forth. But on the front end, on social media and stuff like that, it's well, we don't like this. Oh yeah, well you do this, and it's it's like who cares? They're all sharing money with each other. It's just the most
No.
ridiculous thing.
I think these articles like this one, they're just trying to paint a picture for clicks. And yeah, there's truth behind a lot of it. I'm sure that there's definitely stuff that you can infer from this. But at the end of the day, like, this all came from an interview where they were asked a question. And what are they going to say? No, it's not going to impact us at all. I mean, of course it's going to impact them, but it's up to whoever wrote this article to paint the picture, make you feel what they want you to feel to get you to stay on this page and click around.
But is it going to impact them? I mean, the game's still going to be there. It's still going to be on a PlayStation console. So how is that going to impact them? Why? You really think
it's just whatever
no.
this best on Xbox thing is going to be?
It's but
there's always something.
Here's what it's going to impact. If there's people who have both a PlayStation and an Xbox and they have Game Pass, they will play it on Game Pass
right.
if their friends are there. If you only have an Xbox or you only have a PlayStation and you play Call of Duty, you'll buy it or play it on whatever console you've got.
Right.
So it's only like a subsection of market. Sure, it will influence some,
but it's not going to.
but it's not like everyone. It's only a certain criteria, like bullet points have to be met before you would even be making this decision of like, do I play Call of Duty here or there? Or be like me, just don't play Call of Duty. It's fine.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think that this is going to have like
works
this
too.
astronomical impact on it. And it's definitely worded very strange here. But to say with, an absolute yes or no, that's a harder conversation. Like if I was Sony and someone asked me, I would definitely not just be like, it'll have no impact. It'll have some impact, I'm sure.
I don't,
everything does.
Everything does.
Exactly.
I just don't think it's going to have the impact that they try to make it out to be.
No, I don't think it's going to be this huge deal.
And
Not anytime soon.
I think the only reason why they're doing that is because they just don't want the deal to go through. They don't want it. So their position is we're going to try to give our best. We're going to put our best performance on to say, no, we don't want to. Literally every country in the world has passed this except Brazil at this point. I mean, that's the last one they're waiting on. And I just
think it's a ridiculous news story in general. Like, Sony's a company. Why would they ever, say something that's not going to be towards their benefit?
Well, yeah.
They have to.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
They have shareholders. They're here to make money.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. My question to anybody who, agrees with Sony on this is, what if Sony was behind them? Do you think would they keep Call of Duty multi-platform? I don't know. Sony doesn't have a huge track record of buying companies and then keeping games multi-platform. They usually keep them behind Sony because they want
might be on PC.
Maybe at some point,
3 years later.
3 years later, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I don't. Oh, go ahead, Dennis. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to make a quick comment that, like, a good example of that is I wouldn't trust Sony as much as I trust Microsoft in terms of keeping something multi-platform or not trying to alienate another audience just to bully them into coming onto their side, because using not necessarily a game, well, I guess it's technically a game, but using Evo as an example, the moment they bought Evo, that same year they said, hey, no more Smash Brothers is at Evo. Just Street Fighter and Tekken, and then maybe a couple other ones, but those were the big ones, and they're all being played on PlayStation consoles. No more Nintendo Switches, no more Smash Brothers. Take this out of here. And that was
Smash Brothers is the most exciting tournament ever anyway.
Exactly.
And that's what people watched it for, was for Smash Brothers tournament.
That's when they had peak viewers every single time. And now they're just, nope, gone. So, all right, whatever. So.
And I know a lot of people bring up Street Fighter. What was that? 5? That was only on PlayStation 4.
5, yeah.
But I think Sony helped finance some of that game. That's why that game never came out on any other system.
Yeah,
because Capcom was in a very bad place when they got the exclusive rights to that.
Yeah, now they're doing incredible.
Yeah,
like
now
Capcom,
they're doing
my
really
lord.
good. Yeah,
so. but yeah, at the time they definitely
and that's what worries me with. I like Square Enix games. I don't necessarily have to have every Final Fantasy game anymore, but like, Triangle Strategy, Live a Live, stuff like that. I mean,
I like the way you said it. It was funny. Sorry.
That I'll buy Final Fantasy games.
I like Square Enix games. Just
I do.
Funny emphasis.
Well, yeah, it was funny emphasis on it, but if Sony buys them. What is all those games? There's a lot of those are only on Nintendo. Well, except Octopath Traveler actually came over on PlayStation or
Octopath Traveler's on mobile now.
Yeah, I saw that. I got that email. I have not opened that up. I have not downloaded it to see what it's.
But it's about. They somehow converted it to free to play, I think, or something. I didn't really look into it too much. I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I trust, and I'm like you, Dennis. I trust. With the leadership that Microsoft has right now, I trust them more. If this would have been something 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I wouldn't have trusted them at all.
Well, just I'm just trying to think historically speaking also, where, you see this sequence of events where it's just like, okay, well, they did do that. They kept that. They kept that. They kept that, and just, again, historically speaking, Microsoft hasn't really been as aggressive with keeping things.
No, I mean,
exclusive in that regard.
There's Lost Odyssey, but that was a Microsoft published game. So
Yeah.
of course that's not going to come out on any system.
Yeah.
There was the Square Enix game that came out around about the same time, Infinite Discovery.
Infinite Infinite Discovery. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
That
Infinite
game was
Discovery.
exclusive for a long
Yeah.
time on 360, but there's some
Blue
kind
Dragon,
of
too.
weird. They owned the publishing rights, but then Square Enix decided they were going to publish it. So, but Microsoft still had the rights, and that's why it didn't appear on a PlayStation console for a long time. But yeah, Blue Dragon, that's another one, but that was a Microsoft published game.
Well, I think one of the weirder ones in recent memory is actually the Medium, because I thought the Medium was considered an Xbox Game Studios published
It
title.
was.
I mean, so and that ended up
But
on
they wrote
PS4.
it. They wrote that in the contract that it was only exclusive for like 6 months or 3
Yeah.
months or something.
So
like that.
if they're willing to do something with that was original to begin with, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's just seems.
Yeah. Well, plus
You know,
you hear
again,
all these stories of independent games that Microsoft goes to and says, "Hey, we want to put this game on Game Pass. We want to give you X amount of money to finish production of it, and you can still release it wherever you want." And they still do.
Tunic is a perfect example.
Yeah, Tunic is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It still comes to
So-
us, but it's just 3 months early on Xbox for a little while. I mean, but are they going to do something like that with Call of Duty? Gosh, no. Now maybe some other Activision new IPs they may. But,
Definitely other stuff, yeah. But
Yeah,
no,
but
Call of Duty
Call
I
of
think
Duty's
is
too big.
historically, yeah, it's too big. You wouldn't do, and it was the same thing with Minecraft at the time too, where Minecraft at that point was so globally known
Yeah.
that by the time that they bought it, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to alienate players like that, anyways. Especially when it's such a large, it's just such a big revenue stream,
Yeah.
like day in and day out.
They've
so-
already made their money back
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
tenfold.
however
Oh,
many
yeah.
times over at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely, absolutely.
they probably did within the first like year or
Yeah.
two because like
Yeah.
Minecraft rolls out so much money.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. At the end of I'm assuming probably by the end of the year the acquisition will go through, and then I can't imagine the titles that will be dumped onto Game Pass, Activision titles. It'll be on Game Pass PC and Xbox. It'll be a lot. I read one article. Somebody said there'll be 100,000 subscribers to Game Pass when the Activision deal goes through. I went, no, there won't. You're going to tell me that there's going to be 75,000 people sign up in less than 2 weeks after it goes up? No, that is not going to happen unless they're giving it away for 50 cents or a penny or free. That's the only way.
Well, they like to do that, you know.
Yeah,
get
they
it for,
do the
you know,
dollar
month
thing,
or 3 months for $1. Yeah,
Yeah, they like to do that. Which that takes me back to the old Xbox. And I've told you this. I've got all these cases over here with like free 3 months of live in them that I never used. I mean, there's still cards in there that with codes in them, but I don't know. It's been hilarious to see just this going on back and forth with the camps. With all this news the past 2 weeks, it's like holy crap. And I finally just went through Twitter and went mute. Not interested in this tweet. Not interested in this tweet. Not interested in this. Now all the tweets they recommend me are funny tweets and kittens. I'm like, yeah. Now these are the tweets that I like to see. It's like
that's what the internet's for, John.
Yeah, I like to open it up and get my kitten videos and go, oh, look
100%.
at that. I like that. You know.
It's like internet circa 2000.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's right.
It's like TikTok. You get me. Oh, there's a dog one. Oh, that's funny. Oh, the kitten one. Oh, that's cute. Oh, there's console war. Nope, not interested in that. Let's keep going. You know, it's like, finally these algorithms are figuring it out. You know, it takes a while. You have to really cleanse your timeline out to get it, but some of it's just been unavoidable with these with all this stuff coming out. But everything's going to be fine. Everybody just needs to stop losing their brains. It's fine. It's just corporations wording things the way they want to word it to make them look like I'm the little guy and he's the big guy, and they're actually two big guys that are just butting heads with each other all the time. You know, I mean, yes, Microsoft has more money than God, and they just pour it into Xbox, but you know, I mean, Sony has more than just a video game division. Now, granted, the video game division is the one's making all the money, but I don't think the Sony Bravia TVs are selling like they used to. You know, it used to be everybody had a Sony TV, but you know, it's not like that anymore. So, okay, anything else before we say sayonara?
Everything from me.
Nothing for me either. I know it's getting to be about dinner time for Robert. The rest of us are going to bed, but but Robert's
I
going
gotta
out.
finish my lunch first.
Yeah, he's going to finish his lunch and get ready to have a nice dinner.
That's right.
It's like, he's still got 5 more hours, 6 more hours to be up and do whatever he wants. We're all going to bed. It's like, well, except for Dennis. Dennis is a couple hours ahead of us too. But,
To be fair, I get up really early for work, so I go to bed a lot earlier than most people around here.
yeah, I'm sure it's like, because you got to work on West Coast time, so that's only what, a 3-hour difference for you, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 3 hours.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So, all right, guys. Well, like I always say, if you want to join us live, follow us on Twitch, the Gamers Lounge on Twitch, and I try to tweet out when we go live in a couple hours early. So at GL_podcast if you're on Twitter and you want to come hang out. If not, and you get it the podcast when you get it, when I post it, usually sometime Sunday afternoon, whenever I get a chance. But all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out and listening, and we'll catch you all next time.
Take care.